Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Kyle Hilliard, Andrew Reiner,
hello,
and Brian Shea.
Hey!
Welcome to the big show, everybody. We have a scattershot show. It's one of those weeks where there's a lot of things to talk about, but no big beefy things other than Borderlands 3. But we'll cover that in the future, I'm sure, because the timing of this podcast gets weird. But hey, exciting pack stuff. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Poorly.
A little tired.
Yeah. Reiner, what has this week been like at Game Informer?
A lot of baseball. That's all I've been doing.
Oh, that's
playing,
right.
Baseball. It's the baseball opener as well for Major League Baseball. So
Very exciting. Well,
tis
then maybe
the season.
we should talk about MLB 19.
Let's do it.
Okay, great. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about PlayStation's State of Play, their Nintendo Direct Lite, or whatever you want to call that. Yoshi's
Very
Crafted
light.
World. Brian Shea's reviewed that. Power Rangers, Battle for the Grid. Kyle insisted on talking about it. Let's talk about this fighting game. Hey, The Walking Dead is officially over. So we're going to have one more Telltale-esque conversations on this podcast. That'll be fun. Battlefield 5 has a Battle Royale now, and Matt Burtz has feelings about it. Generation Zero is a co-op game that Kyle, you've been playing, JV's been playing. Also, I really want to get JV's take on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, because he's the biggest fan I know of that first game. And they announced the second one, and I don't know what he thinks of it.
He said it's one of his favorite games of all time.
He's a maniac.
He is.
Out of all those things, the thing that's the most intriguing to me
Yes.
is how The Walking Dead wrapped up.
Mm.
I have no interest in going back and playing those games.
You just want to know the answers
I
to
just
all the
want to
questions.
know, like,
You
did
know
it
what-
end well?
You know what
How's
we
Clem?
should do? We should just have a little quick spoiler discussion with Kim that we can put after the credits on this podcast.
Ooh.
That's
I'm
the way
into
to
that.
do it, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
I just want to
10 minutes of blank space and then
right.
Just like the extra track on CDs
Yeah,
back
exactly.
in the day.
Yeah,
CDs they used to sell, they
Track
had like
99.
music on them.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. We have fun community emails, middle of the show, and then back half of the show, we have an interview with Alex Ward from Three Fields Entertainment talking about dangerous driving.
I'm excited for that game.
Oh, good. Yeah, if you know Dangerous Golf or Danger Zone 1 and 2 they released. But Alex Ward, he's known as the creator of Burnout. He was at Criterion for so many years. Criterion, also the studio that made Battlefield 5's Firestorm Battle Royale mode for a fun connection to this entire show. So he's been there since the beginning of Criterion. He talks about the early days of Burnout back when its code name was Shiny Red Car. We talk about some rumors going around that Criterion was going to develop an F-Zero game for the Wii U. He has a very interesting take on that. He shares his thoughts on the Need for Speed franchise, because Criterion eventually, if you remember, shifted from Burnout to Need for Speed. And then he left around the same time that EA showed that confusing racing game at E3 where it was like, hey, you're racing hang gliders and boats and fast caterpillars. It was called Project EA, apparently. So we talk about that a little bit. And Alex Ward, he's an interesting guy. I hope you guys enjoy the interview. It's at times combative. It's an interesting tone. I'm curious to hear your take on it.
This might be the first episode I ever listened to.
Oh, thank you so much, Brian Shea. What did you guys think about the State of Play stuff from PlayStation earlier in the week?
I was confused because they said it was going to be a live broadcast.
Yeah.
And it was clearly just a pre-recorded thing that they hit play on.
It was very much a Nintendo Direct, yeah, but
Yeah,
without like
so-
even the, but you know, like the middle chunks of the Nintendo Direct where they're just like paneling through the different games and showing those off, like, oh, coming up next. It was just that. I was waiting for some host or personality to pop
Yeah, I
out.
thought it would be like a chance for them to interact with, their audience and stuff like that. But it was just 100% Sony's version of the Direct, which
Right.
is fine. Like, if that's how we're going to get information now, it's a more frequent pace than just E3 and PlayStation Experience. I'm all for it.
You'd prefer Game Informer, I'd imagine, but in a backup plan,
Oh,
this'll
yeah.
do.
You could, Sony, if you're listening, you
Uh-huh.
could give us some stuff and we'll put it on our site for you.
Right.
Yeah, I do like the format though. Like I like Direct. I like Nintendo Directs, but this one was super underwhelming.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and it might be just because we didn't know what to expect going in. Like after it happened, I remember going on our Overblood Facebook fan group and saw posts from a few hours prior that were like, "Oh man, we're gonna get Death Stranding release window,
Bloodborne 2.
and it was like, it was VR games, Iron Man." Arguably the most interesting of the bunch.
Right.
Even that's kind of a shoulder shrug, you know?
Yeah, maybe not their best foot forward in terms of content, but proof of concept for that kind of delivery of information, I think it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So they announced Ready Set Heroes, which I'm kind of excited about, from Robot Entertainment, which is like a co-op dungeon raiding game where you're like competing against another team.
What-
I like that studio a lot.
Yeah, what else have they...
The Orcs Must Die team.
Orcs Must Die, okay.
Yeah. Also,
They did a mobile
Hero.
game, right? That was... Took the office by storm at one
Yes.
time.
Reiner, you played the sequel.
Kinda chessy.
Hero...
Oh, yeah.
Hero Academy.
Yeah.
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. But the entire thing opened with an Iron Man game, and I really thought the entire thing opened with an Iron Man game, and I really thought like, holy crap, they got the Avengers game. Like, I can't believe that for the first ever State of Play, they're going to show Avengers from Square. But oh no,
that actually encapsulated the whole experience like perfectly, because we're all like, oh my god, is this the Avengers game?
Yeah.
This is the Avengers game. Oh no. Okay, PlayStation VR. Oh, okay. Like and that was sort of the tone of the rest of the thing. But Camouflage is developing it, which is interesting.
Brian Payton.
Yeah, friend of the show. He was just on the podcast not too long ago talking about Red Dead Redemption 2. And then I think if you watch the interview closely, you can see him say, Eureka, Iron Man, that's popular. But yeah, so it looks like a VR-only game. You're flying around as Iron Man, using his hands, flying around there. From that studio, I'd imagine it'd be a little more story-focused than you'd imagine. They pride themselves on storytelling, and it's nice to see something come out of that studio since Republic, because it's been a lot of ports and a lot of them talking about Republic. Because I listen to every episode of Camouflage Radio, their studio podcast, and they are always cryptically hinting about some licensed thing they're working on in VR, and my brain was racing. I never thought it'd be Iron Man of all things. Do you think this is like... This is maybe condescending. Is this like a real Marvel game? Like, is there a chance that this version of Iron Man will be canonical with the Avengers game?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if you've been following Marvel Comics, their actual print publication, their bread and butter.
What is this?
But they released a new comic series based on the Spider-Man video game. And in the corner at the top, it says the Marvel Gameverse. And then you go to the back page, and the writer is talking about this is, the title screen, the first, the first foot forward in this new Marvel Gameverse that's going to be kind of interlinked stories.
They really say that?
Yeah. So I have a feeling this will be like the version of Iron Man that you end up seeing in the Avengers game.
Right.
I mean, if you looked at the suit, it was very much just classic
and
Iron
like
Man.
Insomniac's Spider-Man is in that circle as well, right? Like in theory, right? Like
That's the comic.
The voice actor for that Iron Man is presumably, if there were to be a future Spider-Man game that would have a cameo from Iron Man, it would be played by that actor. Maybe.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Who was it? Could we tell who it was?
No, I couldn't.
Nolan
anyway.
North?
No, it's not Nolan North.
Yeah, I don't know. He sounded okay.
Troy Baker?
It's that weird middle ground of like kind of Robert Downey Jr.-esque, but not really. It's in that tough limbo
Yeah,
spot.
you don't want to find a sound alike, but you kind of have to be close. But it's a complicated line to walk for sure.
I have a question for the panel.
Hello.
What?
I was traveling a lot recently at GDC and whatnot. I had a wonderful time.
Braggart.
And I had a lot of time to think. And I realized at a certain point, I think I'm looking forward to Avengers Endgame more than Star Wars Episode 9. And
I
I'm
am
curious,
too.
You
100%.
are too. Where are you at, Kyle? Reiner, I assume I know where you're at.
I'm
but-
Star Wars.
Okay. Yeah.
Kyle
Kyle or Reiner, where you at?
It's tough for me because as a comic fan, you feel like you're going through the paces of the stories you already read.
For Infinity War?
Yeah.
It's
It was called
based
the
on-
Infinity Gauntlet.
I read it, and it's like, it was so different. Like, you
And
couldn't have
then
predicted that.
The comic Infinity War and then Infinity Crusade.
Well, then predict Endgame, hotshot. Let's go.
you don't want to know that.
Oh, yes, I do. Come on.
I can
please tell
spoil
me.
the movie for you right now.
I dare you to do it.
I
I
don't-
dare
I
you
don't
to do
know.
it.
I don't
He
want
won't
to.
do it. It's not gonna. It's gonna deviate enough.
No,
Of
it's
course.
not.
Yes, it
The
absolutely
action
will.
figures have leaked and told you what the plot is.
Write it
like-
down in an envelope so we can open the
Yeah.
envelope.
Ooh,
after
yeah,
the
and
movie.
we'll leave it on the set.
Uh,
Yeah.
But Star
Sneak
Wars
in
is
before
new.
everyone's in.
Like
Yeah.
Star Wars is new, and I don't know what to expect from that. So
Right.
I guess I'm leaning more Star Wars. I love the Marvel movies; they're some of my favorites. But yeah, I kind of feel like I'm just kind of going through the spaces with the Marvel stuff. I mean, all the origin stories, all that stuff hit those same beats, right? Like
Right.
Captain Marvel, all that. It's still fun to see it on the big screen, but they are retelling these comic stories to a degree.
To a degree, for sure. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. I think I'm maybe just more skeptical about the quality of Episode 9 overall, which I never thought I would say. Like, I'm a Last Jedi defender, but still, it's like, I think it'll be a fine time and a solid 87% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Is this a weird thing to say that like if you put both movies side by side, I think like End War or Endgame, right,
Endgame.
will be like a more consistent, like better film. But I'm more excited to see what will happen in Star Wars. Like if that's a weird thing, I'm more excited to see
Sure.
the end of that story with those new characters.
Yeah.
than I am. I'm excited for both, obviously. But
That reminds me, No Man's Sky was announced for VR.
oh yeah,
in that direct. But the cool thing is, like,
Good
it's not-
segue.
Yeah. Thank you. It's not like it's not a different game. It's just like if you own No Man's Sky on PS4, then you can just play it in PSVR, which is an awesome idea
Yeah,
for sure.
like
That they're
I-
still supporting that thing, it's crazy.
I think I'm probably going to buy No Man's Sky finally.
For the VR.
Yeah, like I think am I the only Game Informer editor who owns a PSVR? Like you play PSVR games, but you usually just check out the Game Informer headset.
I have an Oculus. I think Leo and I have Oculi. But I think you're the only one who owns a PSVR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I am in on that and Iron Man.
Wow. They announced, 4.7 million PSVRs had
Yeah,
sold?
it's doing well.
I mean,
That's
they have some
impressive.
great exclusives now. Like they have Iron Man. They have that's it. No, they have like
Astrobot.
Tetris Effect is great in VR.
Not exclusive,
Astrobot.
but, yeah.
There's some fun stuff.
I think it's exclusive in VR, right? Like, can you play Tetris Effect on Steam on Oculus?
It actually is not on
or
Steam
Vive?
yet at all.
think you
can. Oh, it's
So
not?
I'd imagine it's coming, but I don't know. Also, Mortal Kombat 11 trailer to close out that state of play thing, and I thought it was a really good
That was a
trailer.
fun trailer.
Yeah, it
I'm
was.
not super excited about that game personally, but I liked that trailer.
Yeah. I like that music a lot.
I like the vibe.
I like
I
that when
am-
the guy got his sunglasses punched off and then pulled out another pair of sunglasses.
The guy? You mean Johnny Cage?
Clearly, I'm a big Mortal Kombat guy.
Wow.
Yeah, Johnny Cage.
Also, that beta's happening right now, but I'm sure we'll
Yeah,
talk about it next
play it.
week.
I am so excited for Mortal Kombat 11.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. For now, Yoshi's Crafted World. Shay,
Why not?
you've been playing it for a while,
For a while, yeah. It's been about 2.5 weeks now.
and the review has landed, and you gave it a
8.25.
there we go, 8.25. What do you think of this thing?
I think, I mean, you can tell from the trailers that it's just extremely cute, charming. Like everything's made out of like arts and crafts, like homemade items, like paper plates and
Yeah.
styrofoam cups and things. Like it's super charming and like just endearing to like the Yoshi art style. I think even more so than Woolly World was. Like Woolly World, like everything made out of yarn was cute, but like this is like the whole next level of cuteness. And they really kind of, it feels like the next evolution of like what Woolly World was, where it's like, just like, you know, it's a return to kind of like what Yoshi's Island was, where like, you know, there's the platforming, but there's also a lot of collectibles, whereas like, you know, kind of Yoshi's story on N64 was kind of like a deviation where it was like less platformy and more just
was for
like
deviants,
exploration.
yeah.
And like the other Yoshi's Island, like Yoshi's Island DS and Yoshi's New Island, like were good, but like they were kind of along those same lines, but they weren't like up to that level. Like Woolly World felt like the first true like worthy sequel of Yoshi's Island. And now I think Yoshi's Crafted World is even a little bit better than Woolly World.
You really think so?
I think so.
Because we've done 2 episodes of new gameplay today on this sucker, and from the looks of it, it's like I feel like they're getting too far away from Yoshi's Island again. Not that I want them to just keep remaking that game, but Woolly World felt like such a good hotspot for like new ideas in there, but still New Island or original game enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one, it's like I don't know. It seems like it's more puzzle solvey,
It is.
less platformy in general.
Later on, it gets much more platforming intensive.
It does. Okay, great.
Yeah, and like after you beat the final boss, you open up a whole like hidden world where it has like super challenging platforming stuff.
Weird. Kyle, you gonna play this game?
Yeah, I think so. I liked Woolly World. I agree with you that I think Woolly World was the best Yoshi's Island since the original.
Yeah.
When you walk on a 2D plane, but you can also go on the Y plane or whatever, right? The Z plane.
Yeah.
So you go back and forth. When you're going back and forth, are you able to jump in there, or are you just kind of like locking into a path and then moving to another plane?
You're locked into a path, but you can jump.
Okay.
But
'Cause
like
it looks like you just watching it now, it seems like your feet are planted a lot more than like past games, which is kind of
there's a lot of
You can't
vertical
chain down
exploration.
Yoshi. He's got to flutter around.
Yeah, I mean, you're still. I don't know.
There's a lot of jumping.
I'm excited to hear that there's really challenging platforming at the end. Like
You're going
that-
to hear a lot of that annoying struggled grunt that he makes when he does
Yeah.
his double jump.
That's exciting to me. Like I like the more because I really like hearing Yoshi grunt a lot.
Reiner, do you remember how that sounds?
What?
Yoshi's flutter jump.
What are
the
we
sound
talking
of it.
about? I went to my happy place.
Oh, I
as
see,
soon
I
as you
see.
started.
Was
You're
it
still
made of-
talking about
Was
that.
it made of
still-
cardboard and yarn? Your happy place?
Nope.
No. Okay.
That's fine.
But yeah, the cool thing about this game is that like you're constantly having to scan the background because there's like items in the background and like you're like, oh, that looks a little weird. So you throw an egg at it and like a collectible will be behind it or like coins or whatever.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool. It's like adds a new twist to the whole thing. There's like they add like a lot of new like mechanics and like weird twists on the gameplay, and then they just kind of move on from that mechanic or like that gimmick. Like it's weird how they just like here's this really cool thing. All right, you're never going to see that again, at least until
Isn't that
later.
what you want from a platform?
No,
Or
it's
just
great.
concept variety? Okay.
It's a good thing because they just keep having good ideas.
Thank God. And
It's not like, all right, I really missed that one thing. I wish they'd go back to that. It's just like, all right, on to the next thing, and this is cool.
How important is it to have Yoshi wear the different costumes?
I mean, it's just the most adorable thing ever.
Yeah.
But it does give you defense. So,
Okay.
like, depending on which costume it is, like, he'll have, like, 3 or 5 extra hits before he actually gets hurt.
But you have to wear like this Labo costume as
There's
you're running
Labo,
around
there's
the
like
level?
a macaron, there's, like, different enemies.
Macaron, what's
Yeah,
that?
like the little, like, pastry puff things. With
Oh, I
cream.
thought it was like a Mario enemy or
No.
something. Okay.
No, there's
okay.
there is like Shy Guy costumes. Like you
That's
can
cute.
scan amiibos and get like Mario, Bowser, Peach, Toad like costumes.
All right.
I want
8
to
to
play
5.
it. Yeah, I like those games.
I think that's the correct attitude to have. Like, yeah, all right, I like Yoshi a lot.
Yeah, it's not Mario Odyssey, but it's not awful.
That'll do, Nintendo,
fun.
the world collectively says. Reiner, MLB 19.
Yeah.
That's right, boys. Baseball's back.
Okay, hold on, let me get into my
Let's do
happy
this.
place.
Okay, MLB 19. Is your review ready?
No,
Okay, why is that?
because it's a huge ass game.
Really?
And I have a lot of content to get through. So we didn't play any of the online prior to launch. It's last year's game. That was a huge problem, especially out of the gates. Like people losing stuff that they earned in games.
Really?
Studs, the in-game currency you used to buy stuff.
A lot of studs in baseball.
Why?
Go on. Go ahead. We're
Okay,
good. We're
you're
good.
losing me. But it's I wanted to test that on public servers, and that's a big part of the game. Like they really want you to play Diamond Dynasty. The moments, player versus player, all that kind of stuff is all online based.
Okay.
So I was able to go through Road to the Show, which is offline, the new March to October mode, which is offline, and franchise. But now, these last few days, I've just been going through the online stuff, and it's going to take time.
How does it seem?
Great. I think
Okay.
last year I was the lowest score on Metacritic. I'm usually like in the middle of the pack. It kind of woke me up. I was like, whoa, that's crazy that I was the lowest score on
Do you remember what
something.
you gave it last time?
I think it was
6.5?
maybe even a
Really?
6.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's like RBI
It was somewhere
levels.
like that. Yeah.
No, RBI's like 2.
Oh, I see.
No, not even close.
Okay.
But I went back and read my review, and it seems like, I don't know if Sony just had that on their wall or something, but they were hitting like all those notes that I had in the review and fixing that stuff. Like, exactly. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, they really paid attention to the community. And it wasn't just me, right? Like, people were upset with certain things in the game. Like, to unlock, like, there's a big card collecting component online in Diamond Dynasty. And to get legends like Jackie Robinson last year, you had to earn a Chipper Jones card. I think it was Chipper Jones card. Sacrifice that to the Sony San Diego gods. Collect like 15 souvenir shirts. Sacrifice those to the Sony San Diego gods. Play the game on April 15th, only April 15th, and collect 10 hits with a different version of Jackie Robinson.
Huh.
Do a bunch of other things. Like, it was madness. Like, absolute madness to unlock stuff. All that is gone now. Everything is just kind of like, play the game, do well, and you might unlock it. You might have to play like 20 games to get a legendary player, but it's very easy to understand now. That's a huge change this year.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of content. Like, the moments alone, like Babe Ruth, you might know this one, Hanson.
Yeah.
Him calling a shot.
That wimpy deer?
Him calling his shot to the outfield and against the Cubs in the World Series, and then hitting a homer on the next.
And that
pitch.
actually happened?
Yeah, and you get to do that in the game, and it's a cool thing where it takes you just to that moment. If you fail, you retry it just immediately. Kerry Wood's 20th
Wait,
strikeout.
hang on, stop. Hang on. I like the idea of when you're playing the game. Do you get to choose where you're aiming?
No, he just does a stock animation, and it's
And
funny
then you
'cause
just bunt? That's like
you could
error.
do that. Yeah, and it's like you failed.
Is the stadium like old timey?
No, so that's funny because
like old Babe Ruth.
the catcher has like the twirly mustache, the Raleigh fingers mustache, and he looks like era specific. But then there's Babe Ruth on the Titantron. So that's
Get your Coke Zero here.
but they do have it in like a sepia tone.
Okay.
But there's other things like the 2016 Chicago Cubs. They have like a 20 game campaign, like they're little mini like kind of story arcs that you play through to unlock certain things. That is really compelling and fun to go through. They changed up conquest mode, which would take you like a year to play through, seizing all the territories on a map. now there's smaller ones that you can probably finish in an afternoon. Offline, March to October. This is a new mode where a lot of people buy these baseball games like I'm going to play through a season as my favorite team, and then they fall off in like May or something, like in their game calendar. This allows you to finish a season, 162 game season and the playoffs, basically in a weekend if you're playing like 8 hours a day. And it simulates a lot of it. But they take you into the key moments in the games, the big things that could turn the momentum of your team, like getting walked off in the ninth inning, or there's even player-specific things that can kind of affect their mindset over the course of a year. Like if they have a no-hitter going, you jump into that in the sixth inning, and if you succeed, they get bumps for the rest of the year. Like they're just kind of puffed up after that. If you give up a hit, you lose some of that the momentum you get. If you give up a run, that just might be really demoralizing to the player. You might not get anything from it.
Sure.
So there's really cool things that you do there, and it's just kind of fun to track the team in that capacity. You're not always hands-on. You're just kind of a voyeur a lot of times. But when you're called in, it's for those big moments in the season.
Are these games, Shay, are they secretly like NBA 2K levels of quality, where it's just like if you're not really even into baseball necessarily, you can just jump in, just be overwhelmed by like, how much have they been packing in year after year?
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot. Like, there's just so much content. And, I mean, going back to March to October, like, it's even cool because, like, that's the new mode, and they add, like, dynamic narration based on how, like, your team's doing. They have, a dugout reporter now who, like, before every game, they'll, like, talk to her, and she'll, like, give kind of, like, a rundown of what's been going on with your team, like, even based on like the expectations of your team coming in, like, this team was not expected to do this well, and they're doing really well, and people keep waiting for like the floor to drop out, but they're sticking around. So like, we're gonna see how long they can ride this.
Huh? Shay, do you put beard oil in your beard?
A little bit.
Little bit. I thought I saw some glimmer in there.
A little glimmer.
All right, I love it. Reiner, the history of the calling the shot thing. I can't stop thinking about this. Did he do that the first time there, or was that Babe Ruth like throughout his career he was always just pointing every
that's
time
the
he went
first
up
time
the
he did it, and there's a lot of like theories on like what he was pointing at.
It's just a
Pointing at a
bird.
bird flying by.
It could have been the players in the bullpen, like he was calling to someone out there.
No one ever asked him?
I don't think so.
Well, I guess he's just calling a shot.
I don't know. I haven't looked that up, but there's theories based on it. Like, did he really do that? Because he hit it, like right there, basically.
It's exact. Have other people in the major leagues tried to do that and just whiffed? I want a montage.
Maybe in an all-star game or something.
Okay.
But you can, like, my first time doing this, I struck out. And it made me laugh out loud because it was just like, God, I'm an idiot. One of the greatest moments of all time, and I just blew it.
Do you think Babe Ruth is the greatest baseball player of all time?
Yeah, because he started out as a pitcher. Yeah, everybody knows him as a home run hitter, but
Yeah.
he also pitched. Like, that's crazy. And his stature is not what you would expect of a professional athlete.
John
right?
Goodman-esque, yeah.
I mean, he looks like he's from like The Sopranos, right? Like Tony Soprano.
Yeah.
But
But if he was like dropped on a team like today,
You always have to be like era
Like,
conscious.
Could he
though.
even hit a pitch?
yeah.
we're gonna hold you to that.
They were still
write that in an envelope.
There
we
were
can reanimate Babe Ruth. We will
there
open
were
that
great
envelope.
pitchers back then. I mean, people were throwing the ball
Yeah.
90 plus miles an hour. That's
Really?
not something that just happened.
What
but
would freak him out today if he came back? Other than like
probably the
TVs.
conditioning, like the amount of work these
He'd have a
players
heart
put
attack
in.
the first week.
Oh, like training and stuff.
He would
got
be
it.
a
We
very
brought him back.
different. He would be a very different looking player, I think.
Right.
Given like those guys would go off and like work on farms, and you know what I mean. Like that wasn't their.
Yeah.
They weren't making a ton of money.
Right.
Like all those players.
Fun
so.
fact, yeah, it actually took 3 minutes for him to go around the bases.
He'd stop at second base.
I gotta check in on the farm.
But on that moment, we'll just talk about that the rest of the show.
Please.
They do have historical footage that shows, it actually happening before you do
that's
it.
fun.
So I love those little touches they have in this
That's
game.
super fun. And your review will be coming online at some point here,
I'm
right?
guessing Monday.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But another good one. it
Safe
seems
to
like.
say at some point.
It's back. They rebounded. Like I said, they addressed pretty much all the concerns I had from last year. Or
Yeah.
the problems I had with it, and in a big way. Like there's just fun new things to do in this game.
Sweet. Kyle, there's a game that released on Tuesday called Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. It is a Power Rangers fighting game. I love Power Rangers. There's no snark here. You said you wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, just briefly. I think it's. I mean, honestly, I'm not a big Power Rangers guy, but like,
And you're not a big fighting game guy.
I'm not a big fighting game guy.
You're good.
But
you're a
Joe
big
insisted
TV
I was
guy.
the one to check it out.
Okay.
I was happy to check it out because it does seem like one that people are interested in because it kind of came out of nowhere and came out quickly. And even in the trailers, like it looks okay. Like I think that the animation and the character models are pretty good.
Serviceable.
Yeah, they're not like amazing, but I mean, I don't know. It's like a $20 game. It's like a discount game, and there's not much to it. There's like a really limited arcade mode, and the training mode doesn't even like tell you everything, which was funny to me. Like, I thought I just did like, all right, I finished training part 1, and I was like ready to start part 2.
Yeah.
And I clicked it back into it, and it just started me back again doing training part 1. I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's all the training I need. But
Training Part 2 coming soon.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. And it's also kind of, the main screen has like a link directly to buy new outfits for your characters and stuff like that. It's kind of a bummer.
It's cool that it's $20.
It's $20. I mean, you guys were kind of over my shoulder watching me play. Like, it looks okay. The animations are good.
Yeah.
The
I
character models
agree.
are okay. And like, I there's some fun to be had in the fighting. But I just wanted to talk about it because I think people are interested.
You have like 7 whole characters to choose from.
There's not a ton
really?
of characters.
Who do we
yeah.
got?
You got the Red Ranger, you got the Green Ranger, you got a Ranger Slayer.
Oh, well, you knew who the guy with the guy, the gold guy. Goldar.
Oh, Goldar, of
yeah,
course.
He's like
yeah.
the one like non-ranger in there. But
Yeah,
like, you
like
can-
all of them, all the rest
But
of them
you're
are like
battling
Rangers.
actual enemies. It's not Ranger on Ranger action.
No, it's Ranger on
it's on.
Ranger.
It's
action.
it's Ranger. on
Wait, and
Ranger
Rita
action.
Repulsa isn't in it.
She's not in there.
Lord Zed?
There's 3 characters coming in May. I
Lord
think.
Zed's got to be one.
But it's funny because like you go in
nightmare.
with teams of 3, so you pick 3 Rangers. So I played as like the Green Ranger, the Pink Ranger, and Goldar. And then like I made my way through the arcade mode, and in the second to last arcade fight, there's like a screen where Goldar is like, we're gonna fight now. Like we have a history together. We're gonna fight each other. But then it cuts to like a shot of my team and Goldar's on my team. it's like, all right, well, I guess we'll just fight. So it feels kind of cheap in that regard. But like the baseline fighting, it seems okay.
Wait, you don't take on any bad guys?
No, I mean,
What's the final boss?
it was a ranger.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was Ranger.
It was a
I like
ranger.
I like the idea of
Anticlimactic.
Yeah.
someone making a fighting game with every Power Ranger ever. Just
Yeah.
you get to determine who's the best. But
Yeah.
that would be like 100 Rangers by now, right?
Yeah,
Like,
there's 8 here, and then some of them have like alternate costumes where you can be like 2 different versions of the Red Ranger from 2 different shows, but it's only like 3 of the 8 characters have that
Oh,
option.
that's weird. And you
Yeah.
can call in the Zords or not?
Yeah, it's like a meter that you can build up, and then you can
Okay.
so you can pick between Goldar, which is just makes it more confusing. You can pick between Goldar and two of the robots.
Yeah, it was
Help me out
Dragon
here.
Zord and Megazord.
There we go.
Yeah.
And then like when you activate it, you basically are still doing your normal attacks, but like a big dinosaur robot tail will come in every now and then, or Goldar's fist will like come in from the side and punch, and the other one is a sword that will come down.
Is that why they didn't use the Zords right away in every fight shake? Because they're secretly building up meters that we couldn't see in the show?
Obviously.
Because that was so frustrating. I'm like, just bring out your thing right now. Or more frustrating is I was always annoyed because they bring out these sweet robotic dinosaurs and they'd be like, now let's form the Megazords. Like, no, fight them as like the cool T-Rex and woolly mammoth. Like, as a separate and attack.
Why even bother with the putties?
Yeah.
They just got blown away every single time.
But they
you just
look
kick them in the
really
chest
cool.
and into each other.
Putties.
The putties.
Ugh. Also, the bully theme from Power Rangers, secretly one of the greatest pieces of music of all time.
I mean, the music of Power Rangers. Oh yeah, the
goes,
Bulk and Skull coming out.
Oh. I know. I actually know what you're talking about. Yeah. You know,
It's-
I don't think the main theme is in the game.
That's insane.
Which is
How
like
is this
crazy.
$20?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, there's a $40 version if you want all the characters.
If you want the song.
Well, there we go.
If you
That's,
want-
that's
Anyway,
Battle for the
just wanted
Grid,
to mention
everybody. Hey, Reiner, you know what's coming up next week?
no.
May.
I'd argue April 2nd. Something's going to be happening on GameInformer.com around 11
cover
a.m.
reveal.
Yeah. Next
right.
cover. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Whole month of coverage coming out for this
Boom.
sucker. Yeah. Hey, I'll be talking about that game next week along with some other folks. Maybe just one.
Probably
Shay, you
just
might
one.
be back too.
I won't be.
Oh, you might be. We'll see how it goes.
Good
but
luck.
Exciting times. I think it'll be a fun one. But for now, let's see. Shay and Reiner, do you guys want to clap out?
Absolutely.
Hey, Elise Favis.
Hey.
Kimberly Wallace.
Hey.
All smiles. We're here to talk about The Walking Dead, the comic book that I believe Kirkman said will never end, a show that feels like it'll never end.
There was an interview with Kirkman once where he said, one day he would like to sell a Walking Dead bookshelf. Like, that would be the special edition of the comics that he would like to sell as a bookshelf that just has all the Walking Dead.
But we hit the end of the road for the games, which is remarkable. 7 years later, it's done. It's done. And I don't think we ever have to talk about it again.
Wow. Yeah. I just had to go through the whole season again because the last episode I played was in August. So
Oh, really?
Yeah, the first episode of the final season came out in August and I was like, I don't remember what happened anymore. So in the second episode I was going to get it, but Steam pulled it before I could because of all that stuff.
Because it's on Epic Game Store, which everybody loves. So there's only 3 episodes?
4
in the final season?
Yeah, so I played all 4 within the last 2 days for this.
Okay, and no spoilers here.
So lots of Telltale on my mind, lots of Walking Dead on my mind.
But not technically Telltale, right?
But Skybound. Well, Skybound brought on people from Telltale who hadn't found other jobs who were involved with the projects to like make sure it was within their vision.
Yeah, so you've got some Walking Dead veterans there.
Yeah.
Does it feel like exactly the same style of game?
Yeah.
Because it's like the same engine, same tech,
Yeah,
everything.
there's nothing that feels like I could tell that they split up. If I didn't know the info behind the scenes, I wouldn't have noticed.
That's crazy. And Elise, you just wrote a big feature in the magazine about the end of Telltale.
I did.
What was the most interesting thing you learned about just how that studio fell apart?
Oh, man. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there. I guess, boy, the most interesting thing.
Interesting or sad?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I think really the most interesting part of that story is just how quickly everything fell apart.
Yeah.
And the fact that I don't have complete confirmation on this, but it's kind of hinted at through my interviews that I've done that even the executives didn't even see it coming. That it was very much an overnight decision to close down the studio.
From the president or
No.
of the United States?
Says no more Telltale.
Investments fell through, and they were not able to continue funding the studio. So that is really the core of the shutdown.
Yeah.
But there are also several issues that were happening, like toxic work management, just general mismanagement, and production cycles that were just way too quick, and they couldn't keep up.
Yeah. Oh, and that engine, I think, was bogging
The
everybody
engine
down.
was another big problem.
It is
which
for this final season
but
improved.
they had switched over, to
To Unity?
I think it was Unity.
I know they were talking about doing that eventually,
I
but...
don't want to get it wrong when I say this, but they did switch over to one of those proper engines.
Oh, really? Okay.
It still looks within, it's not a big drastic change, but it does mimic even closer to the comics. Like it takes the text that you see on The Walking Dead. And so if you get a game over screen, it's like in the same art style and vein. And characters are a little crisper, cleaner. I wouldn't say it's not as wooden as I guess the past animations were, but
As Jeff Quark says, Telltale puts on the best puppet shows.
yeah, there's still a lot
It
of
was-
technical hiccups still through
Pretty
it. so.
crazy with their, with the Telltale tool, which was the engine that they used for pretty much all their games up until like recently, up until like around that closure time. Yeah, because like they had to basically like hand make like all those animations and like do all
It's very
this
keyframe, but you can really
right
feel
like
it.
if you
Yeah.
wanted like specific physics, like even like a bookshelf falling down, like they would have to do all that by hand, and it was pretty big strain on
So
the
no
team.
physics within the engine. But, okay, final season and final episode, how is it, Kim?
So
Oh, no.
no,
Has it all been
there's
worth
no,
it?
What did I feel like it was a fitting send off for Clementine? Yes and no, and it's because this all hinges on. Does Kirkman? By the way, I haven't read all of Kirkman's comics. I don't know if you guys have kept up with the show or world. Does he ever change the rules that he's established in that world?
Oh, interesting.
I don't think so. I've read a fair bit of the comics. I haven't watched like the first season of the show.
So, yeah,
but
this
it's usually
is-
pretty consistent.
All right, that's what bothers me in this. There's like a big plot hole that kind of makes the ending feel forced and a little cheap.
Now I'm just imagining what happens and imagining like Clementine
love this.
gets her neck bit off, but she's like, no, but I'll not turn or some nonsense like that.
We're not getting into spoilers.
We're not getting into spoilers here.
But yeah, all right. So this season, if you guys have been following all through 4 seasons, which I know not everybody has,
Please write in
obviously-
if you have. Please write into podcastagainformer.com if you have, because I have heard zero about
So
this.
I'll tell you what you basically need to know up to this point, which is without the non-spoiler version. Obviously, we saw what happened with Clementine in the first season. She was a little girl. Now she's not so little anymore. Each season she has grown in some way. So
It's like Clifford.
yes. Yeah, I don't know. So in the second season, the big red dog. I don't wanna call it big dog. Whatever.
did.
So in the second season, it's all she's learning to trust again after having what happened to her with Lee and finding a new group of people. But in the second season, a couple that she's with has a baby named AJ. And this baby becomes somebody that Clementine wants to help, kind of like how Lee had helped her. So this AJ plot thing comes up a lot within the second season. It's the big ending thing, and then the third season they talk about it more, and then the fourth season she finally gets reunited with AJ because she's split up.
Okay.
So she's a little older.
Grand finale.
She was really hardened in the third season, so now she's become more like the person that she was meant to be. She'll remind you of like a wise Lee in this parental figure role. We'll call
Is
it.
she like a teenager at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does she reference Lee in the final season of The Walking
Oh
Dead?
yeah.
She's like, oh, my old
Okay.
buddy Lee used to tell me that type of thing.
There's some dream sequences.
Okay.
Interesting. I like stories where like a character like physically and emotionally like ages through the
Yeah,
course
we
of it.
have-
Dragon
haven't-
Quest V.
Dragon Ball Z.
Well, we haven't
course.
really seen that too much, right? And I think with Clementine,
Especially in games, yeah.
seeing her be this little girl and grow up in this really harsh world. What's interesting with AJ though is he is like her, but he's not, because AJ doesn't know a world that's not the zombie apocalypse. So he gets introduced to like all these groups of people, but he doesn't have the same like social norms we have because of this. So
Yeah. He doesn't
like,
have nostalgia for like an old
yeah,
era.
and he doesn't
Yeah.
know like, oh, that's just being a kind person or empathetic or humane. Or it's like for him, it's like, do I kill or be killed? And so that kind of is Clementine trying to show him the difference between like as simple as, is this self-defense or is it murder? And when do you back down from killing somebody because they're already beaten or not? And stuff like that. Because what else are you going to do in this world? Oh my God, hand.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm getting a sense that if we all played the first season and liked the first season a lot, it might not be worth it to keep playing through to the finale. That's what people want to know. Should they finish this sucker off or not? Is it worth playing through all those episodes?
This is what I say. All you have to know about the second season is that like the main beat is that baby AJ, and that he'll cut the third season. I don't even know why they did it. Like, honestly, I think back to it now and I was like, it wasn't bad, but it's just like, wow, that really didn't do much to advance Clementine's story outside of me being like, ooh, Clementine's going through puberty now. So that was about it. And so you get to this fourth season, but like for me, somebody who's been following this character, and we all know our whole thing hinges on we want to protect Clementine, keep her alive because she's awesome and adorable at the same time. And I mean, yes, she gets more mature as stuff goes on, but do you want to see if she lives or dies? So that's an important question to you.
Are you happy that you played all the seasons?
I said I could have skipped the third season. I would have been fine. I
But-
liked
okay.
I liked the second. Like
Yeah.
the second was fine for me. The third was really, like I said, the one that I was like, oh, they're just shoehorning Clementine in to like say, hey, Clementine's in this. And then the fourth was real. I thought the fourth was some of their most interesting things with the character interactions, because what you do teach AJ as Clementine shapes like who he will become and some of the decisions he makes. So towards the end, like whether or not he's going to listen to you or not depends on how you've instilled different lessons in him.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, which is
Kim.
the coolest part of it.
Yeah, I
Yes.
like
Question over here. Did you cry once after season 1?
No.
What? I did.
Oh, really?
Oh, you mean after season?
No.
I mean, like
yeah.
in our lives, I assume we all have. but-
I thought you
question.
meant like at the end of season 1.
Oh, no.
The finale of the first game had me. I was crying pretty hard, and
Yeah, me
it's
too.
probably the one I think game that's really made me like I was sobbing. But throughout the rest of the stuff, and there are shocking, sad circumstances. It's not that I even as things were happening in the end of this finale that I might not have like wanted for Clementine, it didn't quite hit me because I think I've been preparing myself for maybe the worst for so long at this point that it's like, yes, either this is going to happen or it's not, and so forth. So,
Do words like cathartic and satisfying apply here to the fourth season?
Boy. The satisfying question is going to be different for everyone.
Okay.
And I feel like that's because I feel like they really wanted a specific ending for this, and so they broke some of their own rules to do it. And if you were really invested in the lore and stuff, you start to see the strings after you finish, like, come undone. And
The puppet
strings, you're like,
Exactly.
wait a second, that makes no effing sense. So,
Okay. Well, you're writing a review. It'll be on the site sometime soon.
yeah, you'll see it. Probably should be up today.
Hey,
so.
goodbye Telltale. Some fun stuff. Some good memories in there.
Lots
And
of
this is the
memories.
official send-off for that entire studio in a way, even though
know.
it's
Well,
built by a
I
different
mean,
studio.
it ends
It's
with
crazy.
the character that kind of made them blow up.
Absolutely.
And maybe she blows up. I don't know. That was really morbid.
So
I
the
don't
way
know. I
they
was
changed
trying
the
to-
rules of the world is that she's a robot designed to
Yeah,
explode.
exactly. She was never a little girl.
Wow.
She's small wonder.
Self-destruct.
Awesome.
Quite a twist.
Hey, for now, do you guys want to clap out? Oh, also, by the way, I just want to note some quick and dirty secrets about this game. We'll put some spoiler stuff at the very, very end of the show after the interview. Cam, are you down for that?
Yep.
Okay, great. But for now, do you guys want to clap out?
Okie doke.
Yep. Wait.
Hey, we got Matt Burtz.
Hi. I'm not Bad Birds.
And
Imposter.
and we have JV Gwaltney.
Hello.
There we go. Perfect.
I like Wolfenstein.
Yes, audio
is
listeners,
confusing.
enjoy. Generation Zero is a game that came out this week from our good friends over at Avalanche.
Yeah.
The developers behind Rage 2, Just Cause, all that fun stuff, Mad Max. They get around. This is their own creation now. Are they self-publishing it, or who's?
No, they were originally going to self-publish it, but then THQ Nordic got a hold of it.
Oh, they get a hold of a little bit of everything, don't
Yeah,
they?
I think actually they're self-publishing the digital version, and then THQ Nordic is distributing and publishing the physical.
How bizarre. So it's a co-op. How would you describe this thing? That's where my extent ends.
I mean, a clusterfuck, but
Okay.
but
But just genre first. Genre first. What are we dealing with here?
it's like if you had an open world version that tries to if you had a game that was trying to do an open world version of like Left 4 Dead, but with inventory management, and you're fighting robots instead of zombies, and you're going from town to town looking for documents. That's the whole game.
Doesn't seem too bad.
With like 80s retro synth,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
playing over it,
right.
and you play like archetypal 80s movie characters, like I'm the metalhead and there's a nerd
Okay.
who wears
Yeah.
a vest, and
So we got Cluster F from JV. You guys have been playing with them, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of it so far?
Here's one positive thing. I like the music. Music's good.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
guys?
I mean, it's just like Stranger Things is popular. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it is not offensive music by any means. Yeah. Like the vibe is cool. The game has
Yeah.
a cool vibe.
Yeah, because like the robots, I think in a screenshot, didn't I see like some crazy Half-Life 2 looking walkers, like some
Yep.
big things? and
Yeah, it looks
stuff?
like Dog from
Yeah,
Half-Life
okay.
2.
That video of like where there's that person who kicks that robot dog and it regains its balance.
Right.
It's like those basically.
Yeah.
And
Which are
your only
cool.
weapon is just
Yeah.
Oh,
kick.
Boston Dynamics.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a rough sketch in this game that you look at and you go like, I want to play that game. That game's cool.
But then-
this is not that game.
I
now.
have rarely like because I saw it first at E3 and like 10 minutes of footage was like, oh, that's really good. That's gonna be so great if they can like, capitalize on this this potential. I have even the worst games I've played, I've rarely felt personally betrayed by a game. To the degree that like the potential for this is so far, like the execution of this is so far away from its awesome potential that it's just offensive.
Is it a matter of, hey, patching it, and 2 years from now, Generation
No.
Zero is going to be...
No, I
really?
think there's some fundamental design flaws with, just recycling assets all over the place and
Okay.
Like
really
all-
terrible inventory, which you could fix. You can fix the inventory.
You can't fix the copy and paste houses though. Like
No.
all over the island,
Yeah.
there are so many houses that you go to, and 3 of them, like there are 3 interiors, and that's it. And you have to search all of these houses for loot and ammo and stuff. So a large chunk of the game is going to the same environments over and over again.
Oh, no.
And the loot's super boring too. It's like, oh, here's another piece of shit scope that's broken when you look through it.
Yeah.
It's,
What score did you give this thing?
I give it a 5.
Okay, we don't need to keep talking about it. Generation Zero. I can't win them all. Hey, in later news, Battlefield 5 Firestorm is out.
Yeah.
Battle Royale. How is it?
it's Battle Royale.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, it's weird. Battlefield's always been like large scale combat. We have 64 player conquest, blah blah blah. Every other battle royale has 100 players. They're sticking with 64.
That's the Battlefield number. You
They're
got to
just
do it.
going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's a fun N64.
it's got a
reference.
weird rhythm to it where like a lot of the landing zones are really hot. Like in PUBG, you can land in places where you're going to, for the most part, be alone if you're
Right.
strategic about it. Usually you're landing with other people in this, so it's a free-for-all, and you see the count go down to like the 40s or 30s right away, and then there's just quiet.
Wait, meaning why are you guided towards that? Is the map just smaller?
Yeah,
in general,
the
or-
map's huge, but they actually section off quadrants of it.
So you have to drop in certain quadrants?
So the whole map is not available for every single instance of the game. Like they're picking a section of the map. So like
weird.
this time maybe the seaside isn't available. You're playing over here. Next time they move that over to the other side. So it's a big map, but they're not using all of it for each instance.
That's really bizarre.
Is that a technical limitation?
I don't know.
That's weird. I don't care for that.
I think it's interesting. I mean, obviously you've played it. You can tell us how it turns out. But I like the idea that every battle royale game that you play, or you're not sure if you're going to be like having the same landmass to navigate. Like in Apex Legends, you can pretty much land wherever you want, no matter how foolish that is. You can pretty much get to anywhere to land. I like the idea that like, no, it's like your play space is different each
but
match.
Isn't the shrinking circle sort of isn't that what that does? Like it pushes you to different areas of the map over the course of
Lets
the
you
game?
experience it. Yeah,
But that's
for
over
sure.
the course of the game, though. Like
Yeah.
what Bert's is saying, it sounds like
It's from the beginning, they've dialed in like this part
Yeah.
of the map
Got it,
is
yeah.
available.
I mean, that could be a disaster. Like I'm saying, I like that conceptually,
Sure.
but that could totally just.
It's not
It's
a
like a real
disaster.
Generation Zero kind of
Yeah,
conceptually.
exactly.
So then the rest of the world's on fire?
The
Is
rest
this
of it's on fire, so you can't go there.
Oh,
so-
literally?
Yeah, like
Oh.
the circle is a fire. It just keeps enclosing,
kick
so it's
people into
really
the fire?
badass. And it
I
burns
like
building
that.
down. It's cool.
Like I think it was Blackout. They were even teased in the coverage where they were like,
Yeah.
when you find out what that circle is, it's gonna be cool. And it's like, it wasn't really
It's
anything.
just blackout mystery
Yeah.
numbers.
And I thought Red
nonsense,
Dead's
yeah.
sort of approach to it would be similar, where there would be something interesting happening outside of but it was just just a close. So I like that there's like a physical
microtransactions.
that I like that there's something that you can see. Like that's cool.
It is cool. And the ABCs, like the Battlefield guns feel good. There's the Battlefield vehicles, a lot of different vehicles.
Yeah,
They're
including a
kind of-
tractor. They're emphasizing in
Yeah.
the trailer, which is weird. Like, oh, it's nice to see Battlefield in the official trailer, like trying to emphasize the goofy nature of driving that tractor.
Yeah. So, but the weird thing is a lot of the vehicles only have like a half tank of gas. So they're kind of like use and forget. You're not going to be in your tank the whole time
Okay.
unless you scavenge for more gasoline or more ammo, because they just aren't made to be carried from the beginning to the end of the match.
Okay, and they have a prototype helicopter, as they framed it, so they
Yes.
can have a helicopter in this.
Yeah,
whole
when you're
battle
up in
royale.
the sky in that thing, it kind of feels like that Far Cry 4 personal chopper.
Right.
Like people can shoot you down pretty easy, but it is a great way to get to a
Yeah.
new space to scavenge.
So other interesting things. It's like a down but not out situation where you can shoot if you've been downed. Is that?
Yeah, it's got that, you could sit there and shoot with your pistol or try to stab your knife, I guess, if you don't have any weapons yet. It's not really useful. But you have that window where they can down you, they can kill you for good, or somebody can come over and revive you.
But you're not just crawling around like an idiot like other battle royales. This one you can actually shoot back, which is an interesting
Yes.
twist. And then also it's only squads, right? You have to play with
No,
four.
there's solo and squad.
Oh, they did add it. Okay, I thought they
They-
were emphasizing squad only.
They,
at
they don't
first.
have duos, which is weird to me. But
Huh.
So this is one of the weird things for me. I thought Battlefield would really go in on like their squad, and like having unique skills is proven to be interesting. Apex Legends is doing it really well. I thought they would do something with the squads. They didn't. It's everybody's got the same skills. Everybody has the same nothing.
You're
in
not
the
choosing a
beginning.
class?
You choose a class, but all it's worth. The only thing it does is you're adding experience to that class for your overarching class experience. So if you don't like playing recon, but you want to unlock some stuff with it, you could just, I'm going to play recon. And so you have that cosmetic outfit that you've stored,
Yeah.
and you're getting experience for that class.
Do you like it overall?
I feel like it's going to be better in, like month maybe. So
Okay.
the worst thing in the game is when you shoot somebody, their loot spills like a piñata, but it spills on top of the other loot. So it's really hard to like get in there and get what you want. I really wish they just
Right.
had death boxes like Apex, where it's
Yeah.
really easy to sort through and grab what you need and go.
Right.
Because you can sit there and go, I just want that gun underneath that rifle ammo box, and I can't get it. Oh, I'm dead now.
War
That's
is
how it
hell.
would be. That's just how it really be.
Yeah, you're right, man. All that colored loot popping out.
Yeah, so that's annoying. And the worst thing about it right now, and I hope they can do something to temper this, is the wait in between matches. It can take upwards to 5 minutes.
What?
Because you go into like first the finding game screen, which is the typical Battlefield 5 finding game, matches you up if you're matching with squads. Then there's the map load sequence, and then there's the PUBG style lobby where you sit there and act like an idiot, grabbing a gun and stabbing stuff. And so like it can take upwards of 5 minutes to get into a new match when, you know, Apex, you're in there in like less than a minute sometimes.
It's almost a sweet justice for Respawn in a way, thinking because like what was it, Titanfall 2's launch was stepped on in such a big bad way because of Battlefield 1, and now the launch of their Battle Royale from EA, it's like no one cares, everyone's still playing Apex Legends from Respawn now. It's the full twist.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so
And the
bizarre.
other, I mean, it's really hard to compare those two because one, you have to pay $60 for it too.
Right.
You know, Battlefield 5, if you just want to play it for a Battle Royale game, I don't know that it's worth $60 right now.
I can't imagine.
It's an interesting diversion, but I mean, I'm already finding myself wanting to go back and just play regular Battlefield.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah. When it launched on Tuesday, I looked at like the Twitch streaming numbers, and it was at 15K for launch day, which ain't great. So it was just above this RPG called Outward, which I'm sorry we're not talking about on the podcast. A lot of people want us to talk about it, and it was just below Hearthstone. And then like even Black Ops 4 was at like 50K. You know, it's like, and this is the launch day for the Battle Royale. Like, oh god.
Yep.
Weird times. I missed this at during GDC last week. They announced Call of Duty Mobile. Did you guys see this at
Yep.
all?
I had to write the story. No, Kyle had to write the story.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Sorry.
But it maybe people weren't talking about it, or maybe I was too busy at GDC. But I missed the part completely where at the end of the trailer they tease a Battle Royale is going to be in that.
They basically show the helicopters going over the.
Yeah, which is like a different map than Blackout's map. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to
I
think of
was
them
even-
making another.
Is everyone locked into that being a tease for that? I was hesitant
yeah.
to even call that out.
Oh,
Like,
that's yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
That's a
Okay.
tease. Yeah.
okay, fine.
Because it's nice to have like a Call of Duty game that's not some weird like tactics game, which I think they
Yeah.
tried before, and actually just going for like full first-person game on the iPhone, which I'm not crazy about playing. But
Yeah.
if Call of Duty has like a free-to-play Battle Royale on mobile, that
I
could be
think
big.
as a freelancer, I reviewed like Call of Duty Zombies mobile in like 2010 or something.
Yeah, how was it?
Oh no, it's bad.
Oh, okay, great.
I don't know, but I signed up for the sort of the beta. I want to see what it's like. I want to see how it feels on a screen. Maybe they figured something out where it works better. I don't know.
Yeah. JV, during GDC, Ben Reeves and I went to a bizarre party/game reveal announcement
Okay.
from Paradox. This was the announcement of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
That's happening.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you not know?
Yeah. Have you heard about this? Have you seen this? I know
Yes.
you're off Twitter, but everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
But at this party, they had it all themed, like role-playing vampires running around, and it was all themed like
Like
a
the various
dating app
clans.
reveal and stuff. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think it was that specific to like the hardcore.
So they
deep
just
cuts for
hired
the
some
fans.
people and were like, be vampires.
Basically,
All
yeah.
right.
Be vampires and flirt with everybody.
Yeah, that's a
It seems
C
to be how it
effort,
works.
but I appreciate
yeah.
it.
What did you think about the reveal of Bloodlines 2?
I mean, it's just a cinematic trailer, and I read Bertz's write-up, and it sounds like more Bloodlines, which I'm into, but it's one of those things where Bloodlines was very much it was a janky ass game when it came out that was super special, and I think a lot of people are tied to that of like finding that game because it was like Oblivion and Skyrim before those games were around in terms of like this is how you move throughout the world and interact with NPCs and how your choices matter.
So just unbelievable player freedom, like that's a defining thing of Bloodlines 1?
It's player freedom within like hub spaces, so you don't have an open world, but like the freedom, like your choices matter. The way you played, the clans that you chose would dictate like how your game plays out. Like for example, one vampire clan you could choose would be like the classic ugly vampire from like
The Nosferatu.
yeah,
Oh,
and you'd
okay.
have to stay in the sewers. You could never interact
Yeah.
with a human being.
Did you get to create your character? Did they have to be ugly if you chose that clan, or
They
could
had
you
to
be
be
like a
ugly.
hot?
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's fun.
And then another vampire is like the smooth talker. You talked your way through all these situations. Another vampire is literally crazy and hears voices. And
The
one of the
Malkavians,
scenes,
yeah.
in the scenes that you could talk. You could get into an interaction with a stop sign and like have an argument with a stop sign, and it ends with you saying to the stop sign, "You've made a powerful enemy today." sign, and it's real goofy and weird and funny.
Same creators as Outer Worlds,
Yes.
which is a weird connection. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was, like I said, it was terribly broken, and I feel like so much of the love for that game, because I went back and I revisited it when I got my new PC like a year and a half ago, and the second half of that game is garbage.
Oh, really?
Like it's real bad. Like I had pushed out of my memory. Like there's this one long sewer sequence that's basically just a bad Half-Life sequence.
And they made a joke about that at the reveal event because they had the writer Cara Allison, who we met on the Dreams trip.
Dreams,
That's crazy. But she's helping to write for this game, and she made a joke about like, oh, the game's going to be nothing but sewers, just one long sewer sequence. So
Yeah,
it's nice
that
they call
sewer
that out.
sequence goes on for like 3 hours. It's real bad. But anyway, the point is there was a lot of charm to that game, and I'm interested to see if the sequel can sort of like build on the parts of the first game that worked, that everyone sort of gravitated towards enough that fans kept that game alive for like a decade.
Yeah, they at the event I forgot this little tidbit that apparently Bloodlines 1 was released the same day as Half-Life 2.
Yes.
And so that's why no one talks about it. And they had another joke at the reveal. They're like, I don't think we have to worry about that this time, which is nice.
I mean, that was like what people knew it as when it came out, was like, this is the other game with
the other
Source
Source
engine.
Engine game.
Oh, right.
And
Bert's,
it was ugly, and it didn't run, and
and JV said, I'm in.
I'm in.
How are you feeling about the sequel, Bert's? What'd you learn?
I think the World of Darkness lore, I played with some pen and paper stuff. I even played the Jihad card game when I was a teenager.
Jihad card game?
The Vampire the Masquerade had a card game, a collectible card game called Jihad.
Really?
Yeah, same
Weird.
vampire clans and everything.
Okay.
I played that stuff when I was a nerdy, gothy teenager.
You were into vampires too?
Yeah, I was.
What? Kyle, you into vampires?
Not really.
I don't think I have a single friend that's into vampires. It
Your
freaks
roommate's
me
into
out.
vampires.
Well, that might be true. Anyways, Bert's, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just like that fiction, and I'm excited someone's going to explore that lore again. The world looks like it. The world building feels a lot like the original games. The one thing that I'm kind of iffy on still that they're going to have to figure out is the combat. It looked a little rough around the edges. It's first person, really melee focused, and you're a vampire, so you're super fast.
Yeah.
So you're moving around. It just was really jerky.
So you actually got to see it?
Yeah.
Because they had like a CG trailer at the reveal, but it was behind closed doors. You actually got to see a demo?
Yep.
Okay, so jerky combat.
Yeah.
That was a big takeaway?
Yeah.
Does the world look good?
Yeah, the world looks cool.
Because it's all
and
taking place in
Seattle's
Seattle.
a great setting for this because, it's rainy and cloudy most of the time. They have a whole underground part of Seattle that was destroyed in the 1928 fire,
Where the
1930
ugly
fire.
vampires can live.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
there's a lot that plays into that fiction there.
Yeah.
Do stop signs make a return?
I bet
They
you they
better.
do.
I hope so.
That's like the moment people talk about when they talk about that particular clan. The crazy one is getting
Yeah.
into an argument with the stop sign.
That's so absurd. And they said they chose Seattle because that's where the developer's based. It's Hardsuit Labs. Their last game was Blacklight Retribution, which seemed okay-ish.
Yeah.
I remember playing that when the PS4 launched. I was like, this is fine.
Oh, that's right. That's why I
That's
recognize
why
it.
it was
yeah.
like one of the that Warframe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But same universe as the first game. Continuing
writer.
everything. Yeah, that's
Brian
right. Yeah.
Mitsoda's back on the project.
Okay.
So people are excited about that.
Yeah.
He
yeah,
looks like a vampire, right?
Yeah, he wears he's got the gloves, or his fingerless gloves, and he wears the meetings and stuff. And
very well dressed, just like vampires are.
yeah, you never know with that guy.
Okay. Awesome. JV, also, this is a real JV week. Wolfenstein Youngbloods.
Yeah.
Got a new trailer.
Yeah.
How excited are you? Seriously, when you see that pop up and you're sitting down to watch a new Youngbloods trailer, like edge of your seat, is it the equivalent for like Kyle and I watching a Smash Brothers trailer? Like what's
Not quite
going
there.
through your head?
Because it's not Wolfenstein 3. Basically, like I'm intrigued by the idea that this is not an alternate universe thing. This is like, oh, we're jumping ahead, like, what is it? From 1962 to 1980, so nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
To see what happens after the next game in the series. So I was kind of surprised by how many questions I had watching that trailer because a lot of characters like BJ and his wife show up. So it's like, oh, they're still alive after the third game, but a bunch of other characters don't. So it's like, oh, is Fergus still alive? Are these characters that I care about, are they dead?
Wait,
Right.
step back here. We're confident that this takes place after a potential Wolfenstein 3, like they've said that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pete Hines has confirmed Wolfenstein 3.
And it would definitely take place before this game.
If it's gonna finish BJ's arc, yeah.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
That's so
Okay.
confusing.
Yeah,
Has
but-
any other series done that? Like made an offshoot jump ahead?
I have no idea.
Hypothetically spoil things from the next. That's so weird.
But, I mean, it's...
Oh, Fast and Furious actually did it with Tokyo Drift, I guess. Oh, sorry.
yeah.
But anyways, go ahead.
They did do that, actually.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the concept of like playing with someone else in that space because Wolfenstein's a very fun shooter. So the
Yeah.
idea of playing it with someone else
Because
would
it's
be
co-op
cool.
with his
Yeah.
daughters. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see the new cast of characters. It feels kind of like a Star Wars Force Awakens deal where it's like, oh, we're going to focus on his daughters and also Grace's kid.
Yeah, it was like Mortal Kombat X. I was thinking of watching
Mortal
that
Kombat
too.
X, who's like an inventor and seems to have been like Seth Roth's pupil because she can make all the cool little devices and stuff.
Okay.
So there's a lot to be excited for. But I'm not quite as excited as like, I wish this was like the end. Like I want to see like the big trilogy finish with BJ ostensibly going up against Mecha Hitler or something.
Will you be happy if it's just like the overall quality level of Old Blood?
No, I want it to be better than Old Blood. Old Blood's fine, but it's like all like Wolfenstein, like the new Machine Games Wolfenstein games shouldn't be fine. They should be really good at worst.
Okay. All right.
And like,
all right.
and like, yeah, like the Old Blood was fine, but it's not a game I've really ever gone back to in the way that I've done the two others.
How many times? I know we've gone over this 1,000
God.
times. How many times have you played through the first game or the Wolfenstein?
I think it's like 26.
Okay. And what about Wolfenstein 2 at this point?
Oh, like 7 or 8 times.
Did that release on Switch?
Yeah, that's released on Switch. That's why. It's because I played a lot on Switch.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You just sit.
It's its comfort food.
Yeah, it's like when I went home for Christmas, I played it on the flight.
Just feeling like killing some
Yeah,
Nazis.
just
Yeah.
killing some Nazis.
Yeah.
It's,
All right.
it's like the only game on there besides Breath of the Wild that stays installed on there without question.
That's so bizarre. And it looks okay.
Yeah, it looks fine.
Looks fine.
Yeah, it looks fine. As long as you don't look too closely, it looks fine.
Okay. JV also is known for his terrible eyesight, but that's nice.
Yes.
Cool. Anything else going on this week you guys wanted to cover?
I'm just surprised how dude bro-y those sisters are.
Are you really?
Yeah, I mean, like that game has the reboot has just a wacky tenor altogether. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you took out their character models and put in the army of two dudes, those lines fit perfectly for the army of two
And the
dudes.
internet would hate them.
Like,
Yeah.
I grew up with like a bunch of tomboys, so I guess that doesn't surprise me. I was like, yeah, I know women who were like that, I guess. It doesn't bother me.
And I guess, yeah, if their dads, training them
Yeah,
how
if
to
their dad's
speak or
PJ
whatever.
Blaskowitz,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, that didn't surprise me.
That's a weird one. Do you guys want to move on to emails then?
Sure.
Great. Here we go. And welcome back. We have wonderful emails that people sent into podcastgameinformer.com. And to answer these questions, I have 3 wise men. I have Kyle Hilliard,
I live here. On this
Cyril
chair.
Vasquez,
I only speak in riddles or the truth or whatever.
Brian Shea.
I have something to say too.
You two have hair that's similar, where it's like very short on the sides.
Oh.
Okay.
First email.
Thanks.
Right into podcastgameinformer.com. Questions, comments, words of wisdom, whatever makes the show better, send into podcast@gameinformer.com.
Oh, you're off your game.
Shut
a
up,
week
you
away.
idiot. That was very frustrating listening last week. Actually, it was kind of fun. You did a very good job. Sorry if I
Thank
didn't
you.
if I didn't drive that home already because you were making jokes while also driving the show. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Even though you forgot to introduce the whole concept. And
Yeah,
Jeff Cork's
I
like,
know.
Ed Hanson's screaming at his phone right now.
Was
Yeah,
he?
Totally was. I was, yeah.
You scream
Did
at
you
your phone
see-
how often you do that?
Constantly.
Did you see what Leo did on the video version where you were
Yeah,
reading the emails?
mhm.
That was funny.
Yeah.
And the question is, was that intentional? Or is it just
Yeah.
when you read things, you typically put the paper in front of your head, so that's just
I was
naturally
trying
how-
to figure out how to get. I don't know how you do it to constantly have it like so where it's not being blocked by the microphone, but you're not doing what I was doing.
Right.
But
Well, yeah, it's an old magician's trick of putting the paper down while you read it.
I just can't. I don't know. Maybe I can't read from that distance.
That's fine. Also, you guys made a fatal flaw because the email of the week went to Hunter Clements from Vancouver, British Columbia, already God's country. So that's doubling up,
Oh.
which is totally fine. It's just a double God's country at this point, which is very impressive. But Vancouver really doing it. Anyways, you write in. If we choose your email for email of the week, then we'll put a pin in the place you're from on the big board. Ready, you guys? We got emails to get to.
Let's do it.
There is one topic that everyone seems obsessed with, so I hope you guys are into it. There's this thing.
More grilled cheeses.
Well, I guess there's multiple topics that people seem obsessed with. Number one is Stadia. People are pissed or in love with Stadia. People are trying to wrap their minds around what Google's announcement means for them in their lives. Okay, first email here is from James Hicks saying, "Hello there, Game Informants. I saw the press conference about Google's ginormous ambitions. It made me think about what the future holds. If a developer has the option to use as many of those 10.7 teraflop GPUs as they want, then games can potentially look way better than they do. And if Google's controller can connect directly to the data center for nearly zero latency, then couldn't they sell a near zero latency box that also connects directly to the data center? And if all of that is true, couldn't it be possible for Google to release a compact, self-contained VR headset that also connects directly to the data center, allowing one to cheaply stream photorealistic VR games with zero overhead?"
No.
Well,
Anything's possible. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
going to hit that 90 frames over
The 90
internet,
frames seems tough to do. And also, I'd imagine even having a millisecond of latency in VR would kill you. Your head would twist off and fall to the
It's
floor.
my favorite Mortal Kombat fatality.
Bad VR.
puts on a VR headset.
Put on a VR headset that says Stadia. No. I mean, but there's a potential for any. What is the tech that he's talking about connecting directly to their server? Is that like hardware that you would buy in theory?
No, I think he's talking about the controller specifically because it has through
Okay.
Wi-Fi connects to the server, which is an interesting roundabout way of getting through that system.
Yeah, I mean the potential is pretty unlimited, but it's I don't know.
I doubt it, but I guess it's conceivable that they could do it.
in the first month.
It really hinges on a lot of ifs coming together.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, on the Bombcast last week, they had a developer on, and he brought up the idea of like, how do dev kits work with this? Will Google let you just create the build of your game and test it out on their servers before it goes live, or like, what does that look like? How do you test out this 10.7 teraflop behemoth of a machine if it's just isolated on their servers?
I mean, I guess. It's
They have like test servers on like for Destiny and stuff. When we went to do the cover stories, they'll have like their own internal basically framework on which they test all the online infrastructure.
So you think
stuff.
people just mirror Google's, or do you think? I think Google will probably open its doors and say, "Here's a little test arena."
Yeah, I
Go
would imagine
nuts.
that the dev kit includes like, hey, here's like an internal software network you can
Yeah.
use.
Also, the other thing that I didn't think about, it was Ben Reeves that brought this up, and I said that's a very good point. Is the state share system, which I'm in love with. The idea of you can just create a link anywhere you want, and it'll just track absolutely everything in the game, and you can send that out just like a little Bitly link. You can tweet out the exact state of your game.
That's very cool.
It's a very fun idea. And then Reeves brought up like, wait, can't you just like break every game? It's just basically allowing PC level like save scumming, except in every game. You know what I mean? So it's like if you're 3/4 of the way through a boss fight in Sekiro, it can be like, all right, and Control C and now Control V if I make a mistake here. Isn't that a weird idea?
Yeah, it's not your character though. Like necessarily.
But you can use it. You can send the state to yourself basically to say,
Yeah, that's what I'm
I was 3/4 of the way through this boss.
I see what you're
save
saying.
stated
Yeah.
and then I died and then I
yeah.
load up.
So
that
you're just going to hypothetically be allowed to save scum aggressively through any of the games that allow that. I went back and watched the presentation again, and Dylan Cuthbert up on stage there, he does frame it like, if developers want, they can let you do this. So to imagine From Software wouldn't want that, but any developer that allows that to happen, you can really just cheat your way through that game, right?
That's fine. Who cares? Play how you want to play.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, like I like that. Like you're right. I don't think From would allow you to do it. But like if you want to open, I mean, just play however you want. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you want to, if that makes you happy,
They can. I mean,
100%.
They can either prevent you from doing it, or they can like disable achievements or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. It's a weird system. Nevin from York, Pennsylvania says, hello, Informers. Love the show. Thanks for the great content. By now, I hope you've all heard about Google's new service called Stadia. It's some sort of streaming thing. It's going to destroy the world and kill us all.
Like Twitch?
He
through
says,
VR headsets.
yeah. What would you be willing to pay for Stadia? I'm going to rattle off some hypothetical prices. Each person should shout out when they hear a price that is too expensive. I'm assuming that these prices will be the monthly price for both Stadia and a catalog of free games to play with the service. So he's going with a subscription model, which is not confirmed, and it seems like rumors are leaning the opposite direction, that it won't be a subscription. But in theory, if Stadia was a subscription,
And this
With
version,
hundreds of games. Like, what's the catalog here?
at launch, let's say there are 34 games.
34. Are they already on other platforms?
Yes.
most of
Oh.
Okay, I'm ready.
Well, then 0.
But going into the future, right, you can
Yeah.
buy games on Stadia and play it this way.
But this is the subscription to have access to the entire Stadia
Correct.
catalog.
All right.
All right.
Let me know when the price is too high.
Okay.
$4.99 US. $7.99 every month. $9.99.
That's probably my cutoff. I'll probably do $9.99 a month.
$9.99 a month.
That's where I would go to.
$14.99. $19.
I'm out.
Yeah, I would also do that.
$20 a month. Wait,
12,
I think-
12, 14. is about where I'm at.
14.
I
really?
think 15 would be the most I'd be willing to pay.
Yeah, I
I
think
already have
Netflix is going up to 12 next
damn
month.
subscriptions at this point. Like
Yeah.
it is my big
What are you
thing
guys
right now.
doing? I don't know if I have any.
Netflix, Hulu, ESPN Plus, DAZN.
DAZN?
Yeah,
What the hell is
it's
DAZN?
a
Pizza delivery?
It is a fighting subscription service. So like MMA, boxing.
Oh.
One of the biggest boxers in the world is exclusive to it.
I have Netflix and Hulu, and I actually went no ads on Hulu, which was a great choice. I really love that. And Funimation, like those are my 3.
Can't you cut out Funimation at this point since Funimation is adding all their stuff to Hulu?
I don't. If it's there, it's not there yet. I'll have to keep an eye on that.
I think at some point
potentially.
They're just gonna start doing like simulcasts on Hulu. So. Yeah.
I think you guys are blowing.
Yeah, I got rid of PlayStation View.
Well, you probably borrow your parents' Netflix account, right?
I just
because you're a cheapskate.
Borrow everything. Yeah,
just pay for your own
HBO
stuff.
Go.
They sent you their save state and
Dollar
now you're using
Shave
their
Club. I just keep
Dollar
going.
Shave?
Dollar Shave Club.
How much do you pay for that?
It's like $8 a month.
It's not working. Your beard's growing.
I
What is
know.
it? What do they give you?
They give you razors.
What the hell? What do you mean?
What would you use razors for?
I've never used a razor in my life.
Ever?
Never.
What do you shave with?
Knives.
Oh, okay.
You just get your parents' knives.
Yeah, it's just a little electric razor thing. You buy it once. I don't need a Dollar Shave Club.
I have like the combined Hulu Spotify thing that they did a while
Oh.
back.
I have Spotify too.
Apple Music.
And Netflix, and I think those are the
Look
only
at
two
this.
that-
That's like
Yeah.
Okay, guys, come on.
Just quit stealing other people's
Internet.
subscriptions. You have my cable login
Wait,
to
Hans-
watch Dragon Ball.
Hanson, don't you have
I need to
Xbox
take
Live
that
and
back.
PSN?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Yes, Serial.
You have Xbox Live and PSN, don't you?
I guess I have PSN. I do have
Okay.
PSN.
You
I don't have
Xbox
Xbox Live.
and
I do
Nintendo
Not.
Switch Online.
I do not.
Oh, these are the ones I
Unsubscribed.
have though.
Okay, yeah, you guys are.
Amazon Prime.
You guys are being bled dry.
Yeah.
Stop
Well, Shay,
doing all this.
We have like 3 as like I'm good, but like Shay, it sounds like you need to cut back. You have a problem.
Anyways,
I know.
Milko says, salutations. Hello. I've been thinking about what the business model for Google Stadia could be, and here's what I've come up with. Think of how movies are packaged. Usually you get the Blu-ray, DVD, and you get a digital code. What if a game came with a Stadia code now, which you can use with Google's service, which you'd have to pay a subscription fee for? Now, I know we could say, well, what stops me from giving the code to my buddy? Nothing. Because if you do, Google still gets a subscriber from and the publisher can still get a cut a la Game Pass, thus making more money on the side.
I just don't know what platform, unless they have a deal with Stadia. Like Xbox might be more willing to do that than PlayStation. You know, PlayStation doesn't seem like they're willing to play well with others right now.
And if Microsoft has its own rival streaming service in a big bad way,
that's true.
Then it would just be Nintendo Switch games.
Yeah.
Do we
I
think
don't
that
know, but
partnership's
they're
coming?
like apparently going to be friends with Microsoft now. So
Yeah, and everybody knows you can only have one friend at a time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the way that works. I think it's an interesting idea. I doubt it just because there's going to be weird rivalries in there, like you said. But yeah, maybe for those PC boxes will come with a digital code or something. Who knows? Here we go. James Smith, really letting me have it. He says, Dear Ben Hansen, I heard you say a few times that those icons shown before Google's GDC keynote were meant to be indicative of specific games with a fair amount of certainty. I understand this perspective, but would like to offer an alternative since I don't see many people that understand what I think is actually the case. I believe that those icons that they teased at the start of the stream were indicative of game genres rather than specific titles. Other than a few specific icons that were clearly for specific games, everything was rather broad, and even those specific icons were on their own in a group of others. For example, in the stealth page, we saw an exclamation mark, which is, of course, an iconic element of Metal Gear Solid, but we also saw Sam Fisher's night vision goggles on the same page. They're both stealth games. You may also point out the arrow in the knee icon, which was obviously a reference to Skyrim, but I would point out that Skyrim is an example of an RPG, and the other icons in that image were very generic. They were generic. I am standing by that they're teasing specific announcement, but maybe the deals weren't fully signed, so they want a little bit of wiggle room, or more likely they're just saving those games for E3. Because think about this. If they partnered for sure to get Doom Eternal on Google Stadia, they're working with Bethesda and ZeniMax.
Yeah. And
then they have an
Bethesda-
icon that says arrow to the knee. There's no way that Skyrim isn't coming to Stadia.
I mean, Bethesda's putting Skyrim on everything that will have it. So yeah,
Right.
it's totally going to be on there if they already are in talks with Doom.
Yeah.
But one of the tease titles that I think, if you're going off the specific game theory, was Red Dead, right?
Yes, there's a whole row for cowboy icons.
Right. So you're willing to bet that Red Dead 2 is coming to?
It was
I
Call
bet.
of Juarez.
No, I absolutely bet that. And honestly, unless the PC port, hypothetically, if that happens, if that comes out the same time, like, if the PC port is later than the Stadia port, I think that is absolutely a killer app on the Stadia. I think that's all they need to get out of the gate in
That's
a
a big
super
deal.
big bad way. It's crazy. Yeah.
Would be.
But also, like, for those icons, if you're reading into it, and it's fun to connect the publishers, right? Because they also had icons that hinted at Civ 6. And so if they're getting Civ 6 and they're getting Take-Two, at that point, then they've also probably communicated with Rockstar. So you just got to think about what publishers are getting into bed with them. And I bet that's what it is. I bet they're trying to subtly hint without announcing so they can still save all the games for E3. So call me a madman. I saw this too, James. I saw like that stealth row, and I saw it was confusing to have Metal Gear right next to Splinter Cell. Maybe they're saving it. Maybe there's like an E3 Splinter Cell reveal from Ubisoft. And then Ubisoft will announce also coming to Stadia because they're in bed with them in a big bad way.
Yeah, and Metal Gear Survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so far it's Ubisoft, Bethesda, and Take-Two are the big ones, right? In terms of
2K.
Well, it's the same thing. Yeah, Take-Two. It seems that way from the icons. And
Yeah, because they had NBA 2K19 as well.
What do you guys think? Are you icons genre or icon-specific games conspiracy theorists?
They could be teasing specific games.
You think it's specific?
I think they
I'd
could
say
be.
genre.
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 Really?
The fact they have the arrow in the knee is like
That is
way
pretty
too
specific.
like.
I think that
specific.
one icon can tease a game, but I don't think like that entire row is like.
I'm going to be so pissed at Google. I'm going to delete the YouTube app off my phone for a week if they have an entire row of cowboy icons and Red Dead doesn't launch on this effing thing.
What if it's
That sucks.
What if it's Red Dead 1?
Sure, that'd be awesome.
That'd still be cool, right?
I would be totally fine with that.
Yeah.
I don't think they
That'd
would.
still be exciting.
Because I think that easy, I think we talked about it last week, but that easy messaging of the best looking version of Red Dead 2 is on Google Stadia and you can play it on your PC. Forget about it.
Yeah.
I
Or
They don't
on your
need to
TV, or on your iPad.
Yeah, they don't need to make their
Or
own
not your
games for a
iPad, maybe.
year at that point. Like, that's such a killer idea.
The best looking version of Red Dead on my phone.
Yeah. And by the way, it's $30. And
month?
you don't need a subscription. No. Like, that's going to be nutso.
If it happens.
Buco Dolores, if it happens. In this hypothetical world that I've constructed very clearly in my head, this is nuts,
Look,
you guys.
I've played it all.
The clues
out
are
in
all
my
right
head.
here, guys.
Played it all out in my head. It goes perfect every time.
Yeah, exactly. Riley from Issaquah, Washington says, like, hey, a lot of people are worried about streaming. He's like, I live pretty close to Microsoft's campus, so, you know, it's a weird test case. But he's like, I play PlayStation Now games all the time, and they're great, and everyone needs to stop belly aching about it. So, all right, there we go. This guy, however, this is GW writing in. He says, can we be honest about this? This is on Live 2, and it's Google, so they'll quietly abandon it in 2 years. They can't magically fix input lag. Nobody can. They had the opportunity to truly improve on both controller designs, and they went symmetrical analog sticks for some reason. Nobody's going to use their controller. Asking for help where you are is a simple plug-in to any OnLive service. And if it's at least twice as fast, just Google YouTube where you are. Linking or sharing where you're at in the game is no more impressive than any previous live service. PlayStation has the exact share thing at the moment. It's
It's
not.
different.
It's different. I can't send out a link for that. Why are people pretending like this isn't just on live with a couple of $1 million behind it to present it? This is dog S. And Google will quietly kill it in 2 years like all their failures.
The one thing I will super agree with this reader about
Yeah.
is the help, asking for help on the controller. I don't think anyone's going to use that.
There are situations where I don't want to scrub through walkthroughs anymore. And if it does work,
Do you really think it'll work?
That's
though?
the thing. Like, I don't know if that's going to work as well as they pitched it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think his other points are like maybe overblown. You know, like I think the save stuff is interesting. I don't think it's on Live 2 necessarily, but I don't think the asking for your controller for help is going to take off. I just don't think anyone's going to use that.
okay. All right. That's fair. Yeah. And I totally hear the point that, hey, Google tries a lot of stuff and they kill a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I believe Google Plus ends in 3 days.
That's true. That's true. Google,
Well, they had to kill it so they could do this.
That's
They can
right.
only-
Yeah, the guy.
Google Waves. Is that what that thing was
Google
called?
Wave,
Yeah.
Google
Google
Glass.
Music's still around.
Google Glass, exactly. But this, I don't know. Again, tell me if I'm drinking the
I'm
Kool-Aid. This was
confident.
such a big announcement, and if I always find myself saying if the tech works, and it's like, well, it does work. You played Assassin's Creed. If it's just that tech that they had last year, that's good enough for, I think, a crazy huge percentage of the audience that doesn't currently feel compelled to buy a console.
Well, Imran checked it out at GDC, and he said even on that closed environment, he had input latency.
That's true. I also played it at GDC, and I'm not the most techie. I couldn't notice the input lag necessarily, but we have a video up where we kind of recap our favorite things from GDC. You can find our YouTube channel and stuff. And I actually filmed the screen to show it. There was like a weird hiccup every once in a while, which is obviously unacceptable. I assume
In a
that that's gonna
closed
be fixed.
environment, like
But it was weird because it wasn't like compression. It was just a weird hiccup in this one test booth way off to the side. So it's like,
You know, I've been thinking about this a little bit, and I think of me growing up and not really being a PC gamer and playing a lot of N64 and stuff like that.
yeah.
And I remember playing GoldenEye and just like just loving GoldenEye, being obsessed with GoldenEye, and my PC friends coming over and just being like, this sucks. Like, you don't even know what shooters are. And I wonder if Stadia is going to be a little bit of that, right? Like,
yes.
I'm playing the Switch version of Wolfenstein, and it's fine. Like, I don't really have a point of comparison. I'm enjoying the game. Yeah, there's an absolutely better version of the game out there, but like the convenience of using Stadia, like I wonder if it's going to be kind of feel the same. You know?
I think it absolutely will be. I think it'll be the option out there for people that don't want to buy a console. And then if you find out people are playing on it, it's like, oh, isn't that gross? It's like, oh, no, I never really noticed the compression. I'm sure there's so many people out there, the mass audience, that's going to be their reaction. And if there's no subscription and it's just, hey, you can pay $60 and play Red Dead 2. You don't need to spend $400 on a console first. Like, that is a gigantic part of the audience. Like, friends of mine haven't bought, consoles this generation. It was like, they grew up gaming. I'm sure everybody has these people in their lives. Like, they would do it. They would do it in a heartbeat.
That's fair.
We'll see.
Hey, we'll see if the tech works out.
Only time will tell.
But obviously, yes.
I'm optimistic.
Yes. If it's hiccuping as much as the version I played, deal off, this is a disaster. I just think that was a weird glitch.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And then the world will change forever? Are we counting on this being a world-changing
or
event?
Or all the developers go out of business because we have no idea how they're getting paid?
Yeah. I mean, if it's just like a store and Google gets a cut.
Sure. I think Bert's made a good point recently. We were in our issue meeting talking about like the big thing that one of his takeaways from GDC was like, because the sort of platform for how games are being sold is changing, the big thing right now is like a lot of devs are like, not really sure what to do with this game that I plan on working on for 3 or 4 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wonder how, like, if the biggest business going forward is going to be basically creating platforms that are much more adaptable than the ones we have now, where it's like, oh, we've got to port it to Switch versus, like making, I know there are platforms that are already do that. Like Unity seems to be pretty good about letting you port stuff, but just making the tech more moddable and like making tools that are more adaptable to like, well, now it's on this thing. And now you can, make sure to use this infrastructure.
Well, on that note, I mean, they had made a big point in the presentation that like, hey, we have close connections and we're working with Unreal and Unity. And so the idea that if they do kind of work that into the engine a little bit easier to make the conversion process, right? Because Bethesda said it took them 2 weeks to get Doom Eternal up and running, which does seem like, that's a long time for a studio as talented as id, I'd imagine, for like this big push. Like, you would think that they would have gone out there and said, it took us 1 day or something crazy like that.
Maybe it was a week of them going like, do we want to do this?
But that is like super custom tech, right?
Yeah.
From id, so you never know. Seriously though, game changer or just another option that's a little bit funky that some weirdos use? It's one of those two things.
I think it's another option.
For funky weirdos?
Yeah.
Funky weirdos, yeah.
I think it depends on if like other companies jump in as much as they seem to be. Like Microsoft, they jump in with this Project xCloud thing, and like if we get like other companies like really embracing the streaming platforms, I think that it could signal like a larger change. But Stadia on its own, I think, is just another platform.
Okay. Joseph, writing in from Davis, California, he writes in with a long email, which is interesting. Just being worried about how hard this is going to affect YouTube views and the Google algorithm in general. Like, will Google bump up in the YouTube algorithm videos that promote Stadia, that have like the Stadia end screen at the end? I'm sure there's going to be accusations of that. There's always the debate about how much they, push down Yelp and competing food review services and stuff compared to Google reviews. And there's that debate that'll always go on. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people looking into that, but who knows what that Google algorithm actually is. Serial, do you know?
Yes, but I'm not going to tell.
Oh, wow. Oh, the Andrew Reiner. Interesting. Let's see. Oh, Riley from Mississauga, Washington also writes in and says, Dear Ben and crew, last week you read an email from someone saying they might skip the next generation of consoles and just become a PC gamer. This reminded me of the end of the 360 and PS3 generation, where there were plenty of articles about the end of console gaming and PC taking over, but as soon as the new consoles came out, those opinions quickly went away. Do you think we'll see the same cycle happen while we anticipate the next generation of consoles? Yes.
Yeah, there's to be another generation.
It's the same thing that happens all the time with movies, right? Where it's like, all right, in 2034, this city is some sci-fi world, or it's like, no, always bet on the conservative end for the progress. And the same thing, I think, with consoles. Like, there's always going to be, that consoles aren't going away next generation.
I agree.
And next generation beyond that?
I think they'll still be around. I think they might too. Be a little different. Like,
like I said, like the xCloud thing. Like if they go into streaming hardcore, I think that.
And that's the next generation. But what about the Xbox after that? That's the question.
The one after that. Oh boy.
What do you think? Make the call.
I think they'll still be around. I think that we will still have. I think that the report of what Microsoft is doing with the next generation, where they're going to have one that's just like a cheaper, slimmed down version of the Xbox that is only digital, and I think that's the way it's going to keep going until people finally like just let go of physical media. If they ever do.
Let it go and it floats away into the cloud. And then if it really loves them, it'll come back.
Yeah.
James Hicks says, hey, Benny and the Fuzzy Bunch, hello. When I heard the news about there being a new Switch or two, I honestly wasn't surprised. But I watched the coverage that people do on the announcement, and nobody seems to have connected the dots. The general consensus seems to be that Nintendo just wants to sell more hardware, and that's surely true, but I feel like they did it because they had to. In March of last year, it was discovered that there was an exploit in the Switch's hardware that allowed hackers to do whatever they liked on their Switch. From what I understand, this exploit could only be fixed by redesigning the Switch on a hardware level. So the idea is that the rumored 2 new Switches will fix that exploit, which
I'm sure they will, but
yeah.
I don't think that's the only reason they're doing it.
Right. And this is from the Wall Street Journal, was reporting that there's going to be 2 Switch models, maybe even
so like
this year.
A Lite that would be like a successor to the 3DS, and then like a Pro model, for lack of a better word, where it's like, higher performance, kind of like a new 3DS.
Yeah, and they even mentioned that they might get rid of Rumble in the
Like the
for
Lite
Lite
version.
one. Yeah, what do you guys think?
Maybe.
It's a weird thing to do, but I think I get it. But I guess that Pro one, it would have to be quite a performance bump, just because like I think most developers are kind of seeing it as like, well, if we're going to port it to the Switch, we're already going to have to make these graphical adjustments. Like, unless the power boost is enough to where, hey, we don't have to do any work to port it to the Switch, where it'll just look exactly like the PS4 version, which I doubt.
Right.
Like, I'm not sure what market the Pro one is supposed to serve.
Right.
But I like the idea of a more portable Switch.
But if it's smaller, I feel like the text in so many of those games is already really hard to read in the handheld
You
mode.
could do the Wargroove solution where they have special like handheld mode.
I love that. And maybe that's the solution. And then, hey, old games, sayonara, you can update your games if you want, developers, but if not, no big deal.
Maybe
That
on
could
the
be.
dedicated portable one, they get like if was one of the things that they wouldn't have detachable Joy-Cons, and it would just be all portable.
I know there was a rumor going around. I don't know if Wall Street Journal reported on that.
But if that's the case, then I would want them to replace those little buttons with an actual D-pad to make that console like 50% better.
yeah.
But then there's also a bunch of games you can't play, like
don't care.
Mario Party. You can't play in handheld mode.
That's
yeah,
fine.
what are you going to do without Mario Party, Hotshot?
I'll
Yeah.
kill myself. I guess.
Am I the only person that actually likes the singular D-pad buttons? I really like those.
No, I think
I don't hate it.
I'm sure people will write in and say, but like they're wrong.
Suriel's
Yeah.
also the fighting game guy
That's
who,
true.
I mean,
It's not even
D-pads.
fighting games. It's like any game that it like requires
No, I'm
like
with
any
you.
stricter timer than like Zelda. I think is just I don't even want to play Cuphead on
Oh.
Switch just because of those D-pad buttons.
Really?
I
Wow.
think it's bad.
Aggressive.
Just play the Pro Controller.
I do, but then at that point I may as well just play it on Xbox.
Wes Anthony writes in from Menifee, California, says, hello, my children. Dad?
We all just learned something about ourselves.
Not long after the Stadia announcement, I don't know if you guys noticed this, Apple announced the Apple Arcade.
Yeah.
Well, for the time... Yep. Well, for the time being, it seems like this is going to be mobile-centric games developed exclusively for the platform. Do you see this as being a way for them to get their feet wet with another proprietary streaming platform? Could we see AAA games show up there eventually? I'm wondering if the next generation of game platforms will be Google versus Apple, not Xbox versus PlayStation. I think this is a pretty weak-ass attempt from Apple to get to the gaming scene.
Got Sakaguchi.
Yeah, so it's a subscription service. It's going to be in the App Store. And yeah, they announced some games, which is cool to see, including Sakaguchi, creator of Final Fantasy. He's making a game called Fantasian, which looks more like a little tech experiment where they're just taking photos of environments and then making a character run around in them. But I guess it's going to be an RPG based on photos.
That's what gamers want.
I like RPGs and I like photos.
I will happily try
I mean,
it,
that's
but-
Final Fantasy 15. That's all I can get.
I mean, okay.
Oceanhorn 2.
2 years
Oceanhorn
from
2,
now,
yeah.
2 years from now, will we mention Apple Arcade on this podcast and laugh about it?
Oh, I would say we wouldn't mention it at all.
I don't think we'll mention it, but no, mention it like, like, hey, remember Apple Arcade? Like, that's going to be the tone, right?
It's weird because like I like the idea of like paying for like good games, like I don't mind paying a monthly fee for like, I don't know, new games every month or whatever. And they seem like they have legitimate developers and that kind of thing. But like the type of game I like on iPhone is not like, I don't want to play Oceanhorn 2 on my iPhone.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to do that. And like, having I don't know. We'll see. Like I the market I like on I like match 3 games. Those are fun. I don't know. I don't know.
Kyle,
what
I'm
getting
with
at
you
here.
on that one.
I
like
guess
match 3 games.
those like AAA games in quotes. Like I don't think they work very well on iPhone.
They announced
They look great, but
3
about on
more
iPad?
subscription services at that freaking press conference.
and a credit card.
And a credit card.
You're gonna
I
need
have enough
one.
of those too.
Shay, just unsubscribe from everything and your life would continue totally fine. I mean, your beard would balloon out. You look like a crazy person from Castaway or something, but still. It'd be
Crazy
worth
person
it.
from Castaway. You mean Tom Hanks?
I've never seen the film.
Have you really never
I've
seen
never
it?
seen Castaway.
Seems like something
It's
you'd
on my list. Damien from Seoul in South Korea. Truly God's country. Well, I'm looking at the map here, South Korea. Pick it up. Anyways, he says, Dear Hanson and fellow informers, now that Sony has shown us the state of play and we've had the chance to play Sekiro, I find myself wondering which console offers the best games for the remainder of 2019. Sony may certainly have some surprises in store, but at the moment there aren't a huge number of confirmed 2019 games to look forward to. Nintendo, on the other hand, has quite a few. Fire Emblem, new Pokemon, Daemon X Machina, Mario Maker 2, Animal Crossing, Link's Awakening, and including Mortal Kombat 11, technically. My question for the table is, which console would you pick if you had to choose one that you could play only for the rest of the year?
Oh, is this only for like the new games, or like I play
You can only-
Overwatch
you can
every
only-
night on
You
Xbox
can only
One?
play one console the rest of the year.
Can I finish Sekiro first?
No, you cannot. You have to do it right now in PC gaming. You can still play on PC.
PC's
Okay,
wait,
then
is
switch.
PC
Wait
a
a
choice
second.
that you make, right? There's
That
4 choices,
Seems
right?
like one choice.
What?
There's 4 choices. PC. Wait, no, five.
He says
Mobile?
console though.
He does say console.
Ah.
Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
only one console.
So
you
then
can
it's
play.
Switch, because you can get most PS4 and Xbox One games on PC.
Okay, so you're not going to play Dreams then?
No.
The game you promised on this podcast you were going to create content for.
Well, he didn't know he wasn't going to be able to play on the consoles.
When
Have
he
you
made
ever
that,
talked to Damien before from South Korea?
it's all he thinks about.
Switch has to be the answer, right?
Yeah.
You can still play PC, absolutely.
Honestly, if you cut out PC, like if you make PC a 4th choice, I think I would still go Switch personally. Just because I like that system
I
so
think I might go-
much.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to play Mario Maker, Link's Awakening,
Yeah.
Pokemon.
I want to play Tsushima and Last of Us 2 a lot, but I just like my Switch so
We also
much.
don't know that those are coming out this year.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jerry from Gilbert, Arizona here.
Gilbert,
He
Arizona.
wrote that all out. I don't know why he did that. I am loving Sekiro, but don't think I've played a game at a slower pace in my entire life. I've spent more time with the training guy than any other part of the game. When I do progress the story, I usually do only 1 or 2 bonfires before taking a break. Love the game, but I have never played one at this pace. What do you guys think? How are you playing it? Are you taking your time?
I am taking my time, just as I am with this sentence. Yeah, I'm taking my time. I'm trying not to let myself get too frustrated by bosses, because there's been even early on like a couple nights where I was up very late on one boss, and I don't really like that. I don't like hitting my head against a brick wall for like 3 hours to try to beat one boss.
You're playing the wrong game.
But I'm enjoying. I don't really like the bosses in any From Software game. I don't enjoy them, but I love exploration and like moving around, especially in Sekiro. Like the movement and exploration in that game, I think is better than the Dark Souls games. So like I'm willing to break through those walls to get back to that.
And I think for what you're saying, like Sekiro has more exploration than I think most of the recent ones have. I think it's as much about as Dark Souls, where there are parts of that game where I found like a spoke very early on of, I'll come back to this. And it's been like 10 hours and I still haven't gone back to that because I keep finding more spokes on the other side that I want to explore.
Yeah.
But in terms of pacing, I've definitely had to take breaks, but there has just been a thing where I will sit down and I am not going to stop until I beat this boss. And that'll be the thing that punctuates it of, I'll beat this boss, I'm done. And then sometimes I'll get up to a boss and say, I'm going to take a short break before I start, coming at these bosses. But, obviously I'm more into the boss fights. There have been boss fights where I was stuck on them for like, 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the actual rhythms of the fight. And by the end of it, it was one of those things where, I know his exact pattern. I'm going to parry it. I just need to figure out how to, there's stuff like second phases and things like that. But this first phase I have down, and it's like fun to just try for me in those cases. So I don't mind being stuck on them for as long as I have. In fact, there are bosses that when I beat them, I'm like, I don't think that I exactly nailed that boss as well as I could have. I would like to go back and replay a lot of those bosses, more so than I have in Souls games even.
Yeah. It really made me laugh on last week's podcast when Dan Tech was cagey about ranking the Soulsborne games. It's like, hey, Dan, You have review scores out for all these games. The internet can do that. It's the bottom of the heap. Although Demon's Souls, I guess, isn't in that.
Yeah,
It's
also. I don't think that game is so dissimilar from the rest of them. I know that it does some very striking different things, but it is 100% in that purview. Like the only other game that it reminded me of was Ninja Gaiden from 2004. Was in terms of these enemies you cannot go into any area and ever think, oh, I've got this, because every area is just nope. They will find new and exciting ways to mess you up.
Right.
Do you think it's harder than Dark Souls?
I think it's a lot of the pre-programmed instincts that you have from other games. I'd be curious. I actually want to, after I beat Sekiro, go back and play Bloodborne, and just to see, okay, is it actually just harder, or is it just a matter of adaptation? But I think the bosses are harder because they rely so much more on you have multiple actions as you react to bosses, so it's not just
It's not just rolling.
It's not just like when do I roll, right? Versus I need to know when to parry, when to jump, when to sort of use the different counters and stuff like that.
It's a little bit more puzzle.
Sorry for that tangent.
No, that's fine.
I'm
Popular
taking my
game.
time with it as well.
Not playing it.
I started it.
Okay.
The game froze on me in the opening cutscene, so I restarted.
Really?
And then I started it again, and I died before I got to the first save point. So I said, I'm going to play something else right now.
That sounds beautiful, man.
Good story.
And
Edgar from Omaha. Right, it says, well, it's getting pretty
First
clear.
time I've ever touched your skin, and it was on my lips.
Yep, that's
Ugh.
right. First time I've ever touched your skin. That's not true. We've shaken hands before.
Never.
Only with
You
your lips.
shared skin before.
Well, it's getting pretty clear that Epic's Game Store launched a little early with missing features and dealing in some shady stuff, like reading files from Steam, all that stuff, which are all pretty serious and understandably upsetting. The internet seems to complain the most when they get exclusives. Now that the Outer Worlds and Control are exclusive to Epic on PC, have your opinions on the Epic Store changed? Competition in any market is important, and people have gotten used to Steam as the main storefront. But there have been multiple launchers for a while now, like GOG, Battle.net, Uplay, Origin. Most launchers have had the issues at the beginning, and most have become pretty stable and fine. Is the Steam friend list really that important with Apex even letting you link to it? I'm cautiously keeping an eye on Epic Store, but I'll definitely be picking up Control on day one for now. Am I missing something with all this complaining? This is Edgar from Omaha. Is that your brother?
I get maybe.
Okay.
Did he give you his last name?
No, he did not.
There's a chance.
Interesting.
Maybe there's more than one Edgar in Omaha.
It is
Doubtful.
crazy reading all the YouTube comments. Like the amount of pure love the Outer Worlds was getting. Every comment on those videos is just like, have my children. I love you, Obsidian. It is turned in such a big bad way. You're like, F you, you lied. You said it was coming out to Steam. Now it's coming out exclusively in the Epic Store. Like, and it's the classic thing of the developers didn't choose that. If you want to blame anybody, blame Take-Two and their private division indie label. But the amount of vitriol out there for these announcements is shocking. Why do you guys think it is?
Because people want to complain.
Well,
But
no.
is it-
It's minor annoyance.
Is it friends list? Because
It
that
must
was
be a
that's
little friends
actually
list.
one of the better arguments
Yeah,
I feel like
it
I've
is.
heard, like that they want to maintain their Steam friends list and see what other people are playing.
But
and
why
stuff
the
like that.
outrage now compared to when they were launching Origin with EA
There was
and
that
moving all
outrage with
those
Origin as well.
to some extent, but not to this level.
The difference in that sense is that when Origin and Uplay launched, it was because, oh yeah, this is where you'll play our games. This is where, or like if you want to play an EA game, you have to play it on our service. So people were kind of, even they weren't like crazy about it, but they were tolerant of like, I guess I can see why EA would want to take away sort of the revenue they were getting drained by from Steam. But Epic does it. People don't see Epic as this publisher that has like a staple of games outside of like Fortnite and Gears. And I think because it is one of those things where, oh yeah, third-party games are exclusive. It's one of those things where you are taking away the games from the service that I use and you don't own those games. Those aren't quote unquote their games, right? So it feels like they are siphoning off the games in a way that EA or Ubisoft wasn't.
Yeah,
I think
guess that's true.
I think that's sort of the big reason people are complaining, because if it's one of those things where I don't want to use another launcher unless I have to, and in those third-party cases, it was a lot of, well, I guess I can see why, but here there's no.
Yeah, and I wonder if part of the hatred also is fueled just by people, mainly an older gamer crowd, let's say north of 25, who just hate Fortnite and connect this with Fortnite in their minds, right? Of like, they're forcing us and they're using their Fortnite money to buy these games that I already pre-ordered on Steam where I like playing. I get that.
It's still just a minor inconvenience, though.
I'm in that camp, yes. It's annoying to have to download a new launcher.
It's annoying,
Yes.
but I have like 4 different launchers on my desktop, and I click the one that I want to
Yeah.
use.
At GDC, I was talking to somebody who left Valve a while ago, which is like a gold mine of conversation, right? It's like, oh my God, tell me everything. And look, this wasn't NDA or anything, but I was like, when you start at Valve, you just walk around and like look around at Half-Life 3 and just ask like, what's going on with Half-Life 3? I'm like, yeah, of course we did that. And I was like, and? He's like, you know. I was like, is it disappointing? He's like, oh yeah. Like, don't expect anything here, everybody, which is a bummer.
That ship has sailed.
But they made the good point of just like, do you think Steam cares about your Steam library? Like, they don't care about making sure you own those games. Like, you don't own those games. Plus, they're a private company. Technically, you're better off building your games on a public-facing company like Epic that has a little more accountability than this confusing black box that is Steam.
Yeah, it's also like, I mean, in recent years, it's not like Valve's reputation has been, like completely clean in terms
Right.
of, revenue stuff and a lot of the stuff they're doing with like user reviews, things like that. Like, there's just a lot of like their reputation has definitely taken a hit in recent years in a way that it wasn't like even 2 or 3 years ago.
Also, here's another thing this mystery person said. They said when they left Valve, which was not that long ago, I asked how many people were working on Steam. What is the staff for the Steam support within Valve? How many people do you think that is?
12.
22.
17.
Okay, you guys are really blowing this. You know how much money that makes? You know how
The
many people should be
entire
on?
staff at Valve.
It should be 12 people, is what this person said.
Wait, blowing it. We were close.
I know, but I was expecting you guys to say like 150. I bet
don't
like
know.
the Origin Store team is at least over 100. And they do that.
Sure.
Steam is like, there's 12 people. They'll handle it. Like, that's insane.
What is
But
the
it's
rest of
surprising.
Valve doing?
It's in
I
line
don't
with-
know!
It's in line with how they approach a lot of stuff, where they crowdsource a lot of their features. Where it's, we don't know whether these games are good. We're just letting them into the store, user reviews. Like,
Yep.
I guess that's how you find out about everything. You know?
Right,
Like
right.
They are so used to saying we'll have the community do a lot of stuff for us.
Yeah.
Where at this point, I'm surprised they don't like run their customer support by other users at this point.
It's insane. What a weird company.
Well, they have those boards, so they kind of do.
Hey, Brian Shea, Control is going to be exclusive on the Epic Games Store on PC. And tomorrow, we're launching a special edition of the podcast answering people's lingering questions about Control.
We are.
Think about that. That's going to be fun.
Lots of fun.
Okay,
excited
good.
for that
Phoning
game.
in from Finland just to talk to us and answer your questions.
Hello, Finland. Rich Lynch from Los Angeles, California says, hey, guys, what do the following hit Japanese games have in common?
Okay.
Metal Gear
They're
Solid
from
5.
Japan.
Shut up, Shay, so help me God. I'm going to rip your beard off.
Calm down.
Metal Gear Solid 5.
Okay.
Resident Evil 7.
Okay.
Devil May Cry 5. Sekiro. Come on, guys. What is
Third
it?
person?
No.
Xbox One and PS4.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I guess. Let's get specific. Come on. What about just Metal Gear Solid 5, Devil May Cry 5, and Sekiro in particular?
Like third-person action games.
Devil May Cry 5 and Sekiro.
White male protagonist.
Closer. What? How would you describe their bodies?
Androgynous.
Yeah.
One arm.
I don't know.
Hey! What's that?
Oh, there we go.
Hey,
Okay.
one arm. We did it.
That's right. They all feature main characters with removable hands. Hands that come off is clearly the secret to success and the next big thing in gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That is
Legs
weird.
are next. Next
that
gen.
was the, that was
That's
the
it.
email.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Didn't he
it
also
is
mention
funny
Resident
to,
Evil? Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
I
Resident
guess.
Evil
It is
7,
funny
yeah.
to play Devil May Cry and Sekiro back to back and be aware of that.
Arm to arm.
Yeah.
Wade writes in with an interesting email. Curious what you guys think about
Wade
this.
Wojcik?
I don't think it's Wade Wojcik.
Okay.
Is it about Halo?
It's not. But this does relate to something that's very close to everybody's heart here. He says, hey, Ben, love the show. I know this email definitely won't get email of the week, let alone read on the show. But I was listening to another podcast last week, and they started a new segment where they play a soundtrack from a game and have folks on the panel guess as to what game the tune is from. Does it sound familiar? This is from IGN's Game Scoop, hosted by Damon Hatfield.
Scoop!
They've been playing this game. I guess they played it last week or something, and then this week somebody wrote in with a suggestion on what they should call this music challenge. So Nathan, wonderful intern in the booth, you want to pot that up and then play that over on the computer there? This is a clip from IGN's Game Scoop.
Scoop.
A recent edition of the Name That Video Game Tune is great, and I've got a cool suggestion for a name for that segment. Game That Tune.
No way.
I like it.
Yeah. Let's go with that.
I don't want to think about this anymore. Let's choose that one.
Henceforth, that segment is called Game That Tune.
What if it's been taken by somebody else?
Well, let's just not look. Okay. So we don't know. Then we can plead ignorance.
Legal if you're listening.
Your Honor, I didn't know that that name was already taken.
Go ahead and clear that name for us. Yep. I'm sure they check they exhaustively comb through every podcast.
Our legal department? Yeah. A recent edition of the Name
That blooping at this point. You can lower it there, Nathan.
They did it, man. They figured it out.
I'm
They got it
excited for our
around.
cover reveal, or as I call it, the IGN first.
Also, there was that weird thing where a while back, I don't know if you saw this, but IGN did like a rapid fire interview with Ed Boon.
Yeah.
It was one of those things like, I don't know if we like patented rapid fire interviews, but it's nice to see the comments at least being like, I think this is kind of like a Game Informer thing. There's a little history there, I guess. Game That Tune, anybody can come up with that name.
Yeah.
That said, we're pissed and they cannot take it because that is clearly our segment that we do clearly once every 7 months, and it will not be shaken from that pattern.
That occasional feature.
Street fight at IGN or at E3.
Oh, better yet,
we should do it.
compete
Yeah.
in Game That Tune. Whoever.
We should just both play the game simultaneously so the sound just overlaps. And
This is all fun. The point is, we're pissed and IGN really has it coming.
honest to God, that would be fun to do it like with them. Like it would be fun to get other
I swear to
people
God, if they
it with
do a serial segment. That's when
Swear to God, if they talk way too long about The Walking Dead. Frankie B from Clio, Michigan says, hello, Ben and crew. Do we talk about the Nintendo Switch rewards game program enough? With every digital purchase, Nintendo automatically gives you rewards points on your account. In an age where we talk about the Epic Store saving players money or Xbox's push towards customer service and their new programs, Nintendo actually gives you money back each time you buy a game to go towards buying another game.
Yeah.
I myself have saved like $20 before. I got Dead Cells for free.
Microsoft does that too, though.
Do they really?
When you buy an Xbox game, if you have Microsoft rewards, you get points on your account.
I did not know that.
Yeah, but yes, I think Nintendo's rewards are actually better. It tells you right there, like when you buy this game, you're going to get 300 coins, which are good for this.
It's a very nice thing, but it is that weird abstract thing of like coins. I don't know how much that really
Yeah,
matters. And
it's
then
a
just
weird
when I bought
currency.
Baba Is You, I had that case of like, oh wait, I only need to spend like $1 on this game in real money. Like it does build up surprisingly quick.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I like it. I've taken advantage of it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I
Good
just
job,
don't think they
everybody.
ever advertise it. I think is the reason why people don't talk about it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Where would they? Just like a
I mean,
YouTube
just like
video?
at the end of like Switch trailers, they could just be like after the click and be like, "Hey, by the way, cash back or 4% cash back or whatever." I don't know.
4% cash back. Now gamers are listening. Let's see. Jordan from San Jose, California says, he says San Jose CA ellipses. That's California. I got it. Thank you. That's
very nice of them.
Hey everybody. Over the past few listens, I realized something when I noticed Dan Tack hadn't been on the show. He has to be playing Sekiro until his eyes and fingers bleed. Sure enough, the next show, one day before release, he came on to talk about, I believe Kyle even mentioned something along the lines of, hey, Dan's back in the office. This got me thinking, how often and how long are writers at home playing the hell out of a game for review? I know it varies depending on embargoes, how big the game is, how hard the game is, and when you receive codes, but is it just a matter of sleeping or not sleeping to make deadlines? What are the goods and bads of working from home?
Wow. That was a broad question at the end.
There's a lot. I hate it when you guys review games from home. I like an office filled with people playing games, and I get to look around and see where everybody's at. That's fun.
Yeah, I try to review them in the office when I can. I prefer it, honestly, but I do make significantly slower progress. So if it is something that's like on a hard deadline, like I just undoubtedly I'm gonna make more progress at home.
Right.
That's just,
But if it's Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, then you'll play it in the
I'm
office.
happily play it in the office.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. I don't care for it. Can you guys not go home anymore, though?
You just miss
like
us.
that.
I miss you, and the office is empty, and no one's around to film videos.
It's something
a real
I want
pain
to
in the ass.
focus on. Well, that's the thing, is that we're trying to focus on the game, you know? So it's like,
I know, but I want to come bug you and ask you if you want to be on the
Hey.
email section.
yeah.
Anyways, Nate Carlos from DC says, hey, I was in Tokyo a few weeks ago, and in the bakery at the hotel I was staying in, they sold grilled cheese sandwiches that were quite delicious. They'd put additional ingredients in them for a fee. Things such as Spam, I'd argue that it's just a grilled ham and cheese sandwich at that point, or a tomato. Imagine my confusion when I see one of the toppings read sugar. I assumed it was a mistranslation, but he says no, actually they sprinkle sugar in the grilled cheese, and he says it's amazing.
It's like Tang on toast.
I know, but that was not great.
That was not. That was great for like the first 2 bites.
He says it adds a certain something to grilled cheeses. Then the Japanese know what they're
sugar.
doing.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah. Here's an important one. Tom Awesome from Roseville, Minnesota says,
good old
"Hello,
Tom.
Yeah, hey, Game Informers. If you had to adopt one of the following as a permanent part of your look, gun to your head,
Oh God, I thought you were gonna say another editor.
what would you choose? Permanent part of your look. Crop top, shaved head, super punk mohawk, neck tattoo, full body cow suit.
Permanent full body cow suit?
What's a crop top?
Crop top's like
Bad
the
haircut.
shirt that like
Shows your midriff basically.
shows. Yeah. It's,
Oh,
neck tattoo.
yeah. I think neck tattoo for
neck
me.
tattoo. Well, Kyle, you could hide it with your flowing locks
I
over
don't
there.
know, I had a plan.
Yeah.
Maybe
Cheating.
maybe shaved head or neck tattoo. Depends on the size of the tattoo though. If it's like
let's say-
full MMA size, like I have a thing that's attacking me.
Half
It's
a
also
player
incredibly
card.
racist. I don't know if we talked about that.
Yeah, it's very important to point that out. I guess I'd go neck tattoo. Everybody neck tattoo?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't
Wow.
wanna mess with my hair too much.
Tom Awesome says, P.S. Give me a crop top with Shay's face on it.
All right.
All right. Yeah.
That's your responsibility.
If you get email of the week, we'll put together that shirt, I guess. I don't
We'll
know.
start shipping you out something real nice again.
Cody No emailed in a fun game for us to play, which was just the Pokemoners prescription medication game from the last issue of Game Informer, which Jeff Cork made. We're not going to play it, but
That
was a
has
very fun
made the
idea.
rounds on social media.
a very
Somebody,
fun
one of
idea.
my friends, actually sent it to me that somebody else posted on their Instagram. Said, "Hey, look, this is funny," and I said, "Yeah, that's from our magazine." They're like, "Oh,
Oh, really?
yeah."
Oh,
It's
weird.
It's like, yeah, the guy who wrote that, Jeff Cork, it, like sits like 20 feet away from
Yeah,
me.
it was fun. Check
You
it
want
out.
to meet him? He's what you followed up with.
Ben Beatty writes in and says, "Hey, Smash Brothers Melee is the greatest work of art of all time." Greg from Houston says, "I think the greatest mayonnaise of all time is using cheese instead of butter to make grilled art." Got it. Kenny Collison
like that
says
one.
the greatest work of art
Email
of
of
all
the week.
time is a Bill Burr rant. Burning Time said it's a sound effect from Terminator 2. Brian Grabowska says it's Dragon Ball. Jonathan Garrard says it's Game Informer. Nope. Adam says it's Skyrim. Marvin Duran says it's the War of the Worlds radio transmission. Ben Guthrie says it's the Truman Show. Joshua Cumby says it's They Live. Ryan Graham says it's the Hubble Deep Field Telescope. Zane Dukas says it's the greatest work of art. The greatest work of art is either the Seinfeld episode, The Parking Garage, Huckleberry Finn, or Michelangelo's Tomb of Pope Julius II. Mark Lark from Surprise, Arizona, friend of the show, he wrote in with some stats because he's been keeping track of everybody's greatest
That's
work of art of
awesome.
all time.
I love this.
He said Illinois wrote in the most with 5 people, suggesting some. There have been multiple duplicates, including Fantasia, Bohemian Rhapsody, Thriller, Pyramids, and the Divine Comedy. The funniest answer so far is Matt Cotto's stink lines from a fly on a piece of poop or whatever.
Or whatever. You got to get that there, too.
Yep. And then, he sent all the other suggestions from people. It's a lot. Ultimately, I think Jordan from Fairfax, Virginia here has a very important email. He says, "You had it right the first time it came up. Hamilton is the greatest work of art of all time. So it was definitely fun. There was never any need for this months-long debate." I think he's right.
Yeah.
I think we can call it case closed and that Hamilton is the greatest work of art of all time ever made by human beings.
The real work of art was the friends we made along the way.
Absolutely. So please don't send those things.
You don't like that? I like getting rid of those.
We've been going on for so long. We got to call it quits at some point. Officially,
I love it.
Hamilton, congratulations. Greatest work of art of all time.
How
Come
does
on,
the
Brian
best?
Schaefer.
Having not seen
Oh,
that shirt.
thanks.
We're good.
I'm happy for Hamilton.
Great. What do you guys like for email of the week?
The grilled cheese one.
Yeah.
That made me laugh so hard.
That one was really good.
Oh, that weird thing?
Yeah.
I want the guy who said, "I know I'm not going to even get read or get email of the week."
That would be
That
fun.
ratted on IGN to us.
Kyle,
That's actually
that's
not bad.
such a weird thing. But
It made me laugh real hard.
I
A
definitely
lot of-
like.
as a person who listens to the podcast every week.
Yeah.
Like I love it. Just a lot
Real
of good
heads will laugh
callbacks.
at that
Yeah,
joke.
real Game Informer show fan.
all right, Greg from Houston, Texas, with
Yeah.
I think the greatest mayonnaise of all time is using cheese instead of butter to make grilled art.
When that-
Congratulations.
I can't wait for that to come up again at the end of the year when we decide. And writers
God.
just so confused by it.
Greg, Houston, beautiful Houston. Man, they've got it all down there, don't they?
They do.
Growing
Now they have
city.
email of the week.
They've got water. They've got buildings.
It's like the second biggest city in the world or some nonsense. Houston's always confusing. When you see the rank of population, it's like, what the hell? It's
Big,
up there.
right? Like it's geographically large, right? It spreads over
a lot of concrete. Yeah, they got it all,
It's in
man.
Texas.
Let's see. Suriel, you're looking forward to the cover reveal next week?
Yeah.
Do you want to come on and talk about it?
No.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Thank you so much for writing into podcastinginformer.com, everybody. As for now, we have an interview with Alex Ward talking about the history of Burnout and their upcoming game, Dangerous Driving, which he says he's more proud of than any other game he's ever worked on.
Wow.
Also, in the interview, I was very confused because he keeps referencing Kato, and I didn't know what he was talking about. He's talking about Mikado. But that's not important. Look, it's tough to read it right. But without further ado, here's Alex Ward. Alex Ward, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you. I've wanted to talk to you for a while now. I know with Dangerous Driving coming out, it's like, the perfect time to dive into the Ward history here. How's life over there going?
Me nervous.
No,
it's good, actually. We're just finishing off the development, and I'm just at home at the moment and I'm packing because tomorrow I fly to Boston to go to PAX East.
Ooh, how does that feel?
I've never been before, so I've got no idea what to expect.
Okay.
But I've just been doing my research. It just looked like apparently for the last 3 years in a row, Boston has the worst drivers in America. It's been for 3 years out of 4. It's just been beaten. Apparently now Baltimore, they're the worst. But Boston, apparently they're the worst for speeding, parking violations, and accidents. So sounds like it'd be the perfect place for terrible drivers.
Yeah, you're going to be sitting on a just bench and taking notes for a while. It'll be like, oh, this is the way people are colliding into each other. This is good research for the future.
Something like that. They should move it to Baltimore, though. So I think it should always be good. Whenever I've shown driving games previously, normally if it's always good to show it in the home of bad driving. So, you know.
Oh, true. How are you?
So, yeah, thanks.
How are you as a driver?
Flawless, actually, yeah. Flawless. Haven't crashed a car since, I don't know, Burnout Paradise.
Really? Is that right?
Actually, no. Sorry, that's a complete lie in case my wife watches this. No, the last car... Well, put it this way. I went on holiday to Australia a couple of years ago and I ended up buying the car, put it that way.
Interesting. So I guess it's just a given that you're obsessed with cars. I mean, so much of your life, your professional career has been studying cars.
No, not at all. Not interested at all.
Not interested? That's been your job, man.
Games is my job, not cars. So I'm so into what I do, very passionate about what I do. If I was really into cars, I'd be working at a car company. If I was really into sports, I'd be an athlete. But I'm really into games, so that's why I make them.
And it's just
I'm not interested in cars in real life. If I was interested in cars in real life, I would have done something else. And I'm not really interested in a lot of other car games, really. I mean, because I grew up in the arcade, so.
Yeah, so like the whole car porn aspect, right, of like Forza, where you're just like looking at, I don't know, the seat belts at 4K. You're not into that weird aspect.
No, I mean, I am a massive Forza fan. I have to say I'm quite a staunch Forza Motorsport fan, and I'm currently loving the new one. But, and those guys are at Turn 10, from what I know. I've never met them. Although Dan Greenewalt at Turn 10 has the same birthday as me, I know that. So that's something on the opposite sides there. They're very into what they do, and the best thing that can happen in a simulation game is overtaking. I mean, that's, I love Forza. I'm playing at the moment on PC, 4K HDR, looks fantastic. But the best thing that can happen in the game is you can do a good overtake and hold the lead, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So the games that I make are kind of very different, where it's kind of a driving game for people who don't like all that stuff, and largely for a lot of people who do like that stuff. We make a driving game for people who want to go really, really, really fast. They want boost, and they want to smash other people off the road.
So you see cars not as, your games are particularly not as for car heads or gear heads, but more for people. You see cars just as a vehicle for fun gameplay. No pun intended there.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, this is my 25th year making in games, 20th year making games, and kind of I joined in '95. I mean, when I started, my passion really was, my childhood was arcade games, particularly driving arcade games, because anything that had a steering wheel on the front was kind of a more interesting game than I don't know. So there was some quite obscure sci-fi games at the time. So stuff like Namco and Sega, particularly AM2 Sega, they were like gods to me. So they were the things that influenced me the most. From when I was at school seeing Outrun for the first time blew my mind. Whether that's going on to play, I don't know, Scud Race, Virtual Racing was massive one for me. Sega Rally, I still think is probably one of the greatest games of all time. So arcade driving games for me is just what I'd be really passionate about. So when I moved into becoming a game developer, that's obviously what I wanted to make.
Yeah. And so now at Three Fields, then, has it always been the goal of like someday we're going to get back to that? I'd imagine you'd also you also appreciated the break though, right? Of like, I just don't want to think about Burnout. I don't want to think about comparisons to Burnout for a while. Or was it always like, hey, Dangerous Golf, everything working my way up to this goal?
Oh, well, as being the first person on what was the Burnout team, it was called Shiny Red Car Team in 1999. I've thought about Burnout every day for the last 20 years. Every single day.
Jesus. And why wouldn't you want to try something else then?
Well, this is the thing I enjoy the most. I was thinking about this earlier. I was outside at home. If I was a musician, I'd be into a certain style of music. You know, let's say, I don't know. Let's say I was into country music. There'd be a particular style of country music that would have influenced me. Maybe I grew up liking, I don't know, Merle Haggard or Johnny Cash, showing my age now. Maybe there's a particular style. If I was then a musician, I would have made music in that style. You know, listening to, I don't know, Rita Ora or Dua Lipa or whatever it is, listening to EDM, that's not going to do anything for me because I'm into this style of music.
Yeah.
So gaming for me, there's only a few games I'm kind of really interested in. And making a game is 10 times harder than playing a game. So my advice to anybody is you've got to be really passionate about what you do for a job. To make a good game, you've got to be really passionate about it. So making arcade driving games is kind of what I always wanted to do. It's never felt like work to me, really. At times, blatantly, it has.
But imagine, is it just, you know, there's
it probably
different...
feels like work to you now, right?
Nah, not necessarily. But does it always feel like every day just has its own unique challenge? So it's not like, you know, conceptually, it's like, yeah, they're arcade racing games. It's not like you're going in every day and saying, okay, I got to fine tune the steering of this game over and over and over again for 25 years. Because every day it's like, okay, I need to deal with this person, need to work out this meeting, need to take these screenshots. And that's...
Well, I think if you're not really passionate about it and driven by it, you couldn't understand why it would ever be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I've certainly had experiences of that over 20 years. But I think that it is different every day. What excites me, why we have been building up to be making this game over the past 5 years, is that we were waiting to get to a point where technology could fulfill the basic concept of the game. We started off making this style of game back in 2000, and we're working on PlayStation 2. It was, you know, at the time, it was this incredible wonder box, you know, the emotion engine that would make us all cry. But it was quite, compared to what we have now, it's quite limited. So there's only so many things we could do. Developers back then, you would look at lots of movies and grab DVDs and things. There wasn't a hope in hell you were ever going to recreate what you saw in a movie car chase sequence. There was no chance we had of doing that on the PlayStation 2, whereas now getting there we can. And that's what's kind of driven me the past couple of years, is working on Unreal Engine, learning Unreal Engine, specializing in that, understanding physics. I mean, everything we've been doing as a studio has been a kind of the warm-up, being a building block. As an independent developer, you have to kind of release all your experiments, right? So we started off experimenting with physics, and we made a golf game out of that. Then we made a Danger Zone. We kind of took what we learned from that and made a small kind of crash game. Then we improved on that again and took it outside. And then the stage is set now to kind of make full driving experience and go back to doing what we wanted to do, which is why we formed the company. And that's why bringing that aggressive racing style back, but also taking it to a new place. You know, it's never been exciting to make the same thing again. You've got to kind of change it. You've got to try and lift it up, and that's what we've been doing.
I'm really interested in when you said release your experiments. Is that just for the sake of getting feedback, or financially? Just like, hey, why not release this stuff?
No, totally financially. We have to. We're an independent developer. We're self-funded. We pooled our money and formed a company, and you know, that's it. A couple of us, we started off the company, worked for nothing for a year and a bit, and you make a game and put it out. And then the money comes in from that, and that tells you how much time you've got to make the next game. So that's why our games have been quite small compared to, I don't know, what Ubisoft or somebody puts out.
Yeah.
But we've been making games in far less time. So we started Dangerous Driving in August, and we just finished it now. And it's the biggest game we've made. But again, it's been a build-up of, we had to learn a lot of stuff. We formed the company in 2014 to make games that we'd work on hardware we'd never worked on, and use technology and engine with no experience of whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's it's ridiculous and outlandish to think, you're going to start off knowing nothing about that stuff, even though we've made games together for a long time, that we're just going to go off and make some, huge open world game that's, takes forever.
Did you have misconceptions about the indie space when you first started out, about like where you'd imagine the money would be coming from?
I don't think we knew anything about it. Still don't. I'm going to PAX and we're appearing on this thing called the Indie Mecha booth. I've never heard of it. I mean, I've never been to PAX. I've got no idea what to expect. Somebody's told me it'd be quite a relaxing 4 days. We have no idea. So now we're kind of, full service developer in the sense that, as well as being the publisher, it's just a boatload of work that you can never imagine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I left my old job, somebody said to me, it's impossible to make a game in under a year. And we thought, really? Let's have a go, because I think it's quite inefficient at times. So we've made this game in, 7-8 months.
Jesus. Well, how long did it take to make like the first Burnout? What was that timeline like? 1 year.
Burnout 1, 35 people, 12 months. Burnout 2, 45 people, 12 months. Burnout 3, 80 people plus. 12 months. Revenge was 12 months. Paradise was 2 years.
That's insane. You guys are just efficient at this point for cranking stuff out. Because like, what percentage of the team comes from those old Criterion days?
So we're only 7 people. There's myself and Fiona Sperry, who ran Criterion and ran EA in Europe.
Yeah.
There's Paul Philpott. He joined. He's ex BlackRock. He worked on Split Second, and he was doing cars for us on Need for Speed Most Wanted. Then we have 3 programmers: Ben Smith, Phil McGuire, Alex Veal. They joined at various stages, Paradise, Revenge, onwards. We have Simon Phipps, who works from us in his house in Derby. I've worked with Simon since, 96, on and off. He's done various few things. Who have I forgotten?
The unnamed most talented person on your team, but that's totally fine. It's a lot of pressure.
They're all really smart. What's been really refreshing is going from a big team that's can be quite inefficient at times to going in a small team where we're all just really focused on what we're doing. Myself, Paul, and Symes, make the tracks. The coders pull the game modes together. Fiona and Alex Field did all the progression. So it's kind of boutique, but it's kind of a lot of fun. It breathed new life back into it for me, because I was spectacularly quite bored by the time of 2014. I was ready to make a change in life because I was getting quite bored of doing the same old stuff.
Just bored of the corporate atmosphere, or like what specifically was boring?
Particularly, kind of stopped learning. All you do is learn to be in a big corporate company. I've been done Need for Speed Most Wanted, and then we were starting a new game which was called Project EA, Project Epic Adventure, and we did about 6-7 months on that. I had a feeling that they wouldn't be that interested, so decided to go and do it on my own, go back and do what I want to do. So. And
Project EA, was that the one that you showed at E3 2014, where it's just every different type of vehicle?
I didn't show it at E3 because I'd already left by then.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay, but that was the Epic Adventure thing. Okay, got it.
Kato wants me to talk about that, and we'll do that sometime.
Oh yeah, Matt over here, yeah, for sure. I mean, would you like to talk about it now? Were you proud of that project, or was it just like, hey, let's try and shake it up and go for something different?
Ask me again, sorry.
Were you proud of that project, or was it just an attempt to kind of shake Criterion up and go for something new so that you were less bored?
Oh, no. I want to say bored. It's kind of like, I guess I was bored with... everyone was improving, and I guess I felt like we were quite stagnant at the time. Technology and everything was always moving on, and we were still having a lot of problems putting the software together. And I felt like we really should be getting better. And I felt that tools and technology and everything were really moving on. And I think we were always kind of a PS2 developer, really. And kind of the transition, like it did with a lot of other people, kind of really was very difficult and very turbulent. And it was hard to move on from that.
So it's just kind of you screaming from inside this corporate machine, trying to get the gears all moving in the same direction just to try and jump ahead a little bit? Is that the frustrating part?
No, I mean, hardly. I mean, we did, after Paradise, we took on Need for Speed that we asked to do. There's a lot of folklore saying we were forced to do it, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally rang up and asked to do it, and that gave us Hot Pursuit, and then it gave us Most Wanted. but I mean, I've been planning on making a move since about, I don't know, Burnout Revenge. So
Right. At some point it has to happen. By the way, it's a very specific piece of feedback, but in Most Wanted, the ambush intro videos are so fucking cool, and they're so fucking good, and it's never talked about. But like the first time playing that, it's like, what the hell am I looking at? Why is this in a racing game? Just these artistic, bizarre, surreal little cutscenes. How did that happen?
They were directed by. They were put together. They were led by a guy called Neil Manners. But basically, I think my challenge to him and Kieran, his freelancer at the time, is kind of seen all. There's only so many things you can do with a car intro on a start line. We kind of done that a lot.
Yeah.
So I remember saying one of them's got to be upside down. Don't care what you do, but just do one of them upside down. And by that time, you may as well just try and shake it up, right? So if you remember, some of them are quite strange, and that's quite fun to hear you say that. I don't think anybody's mentioned them. You're just trying to do it differently. You know, it's kind of the same old stuff. And I think there's a stagnancy that came from doing Need for Speed that, as I'm sure it is with a lot of licensed properties, it never really felt ours, really. So you're kind of doing it. It's hard to get excited about Need for Speed, and I think that probably shows in some of the recent games. I don't know who owns it. I owned it for the time I was doing it. And I was excited to do it because I had it on the 3DO, and it was something I always wanted to have a crack at. But by then, you may as well try and do something different. There's only so many ways you can show cars on the start line.
Right.
There's only so many ways to do it.
I know you're thinking about Burnout every single day. Do you ever think back or just think about, like, what is the right path forward for the Need for Speed franchise? If you were still running it, like, what can they do to garner interest and raise the quality bar for Need for Speed again?
I could tell you, but you'd have to pay me to do it. I know exactly what to do with it, by the way.
Okay.
I've probably little or no desire to do it, but
I'll send you like $40 over Google Wallet.
It'd probably be a lot more than that.
Okay.
You could. Well, like I said, my philosophy is this. If you put the developers in charge, let them do what they want to do, you'll probably get a good game out of it. Example being Need for Speed Hot Pursuit.
That's what you wanted
Simple
to do.
as that, right?
Yeah.
But Burnout Paradise, Burnout 1, Burnout 2, Burnout 3. You probably get a good game out of it if the developer is left to get on with it. If you bring in a load of people who take the power away from the developer and make the developer kind of disinterested, and make a lot of developers, I guess, end up not trying sometimes just because, for a long time, that was why they were never... I know it changes with kind of stuff like Spider-Man, but for a long time, there weren't licensed games were kind of bad, right? If you go back to SNES and Genesis time, licensed games were kind of bad. And that's just because developer might want to say, with a game, we'll do X, Y, and Z, and you just can't, right? You've got to go through 10 approvals or somebody else. If the developer doesn't feel in control of it, I was listening to a podcast recently by a guy called David Doak, who Dr. Doak from GoldenEye.
Yeah.
And he just said, they were making Time Splitters, and if somebody had a good idea, they were a small team. If somebody had a good idea, they'd put it in. If somebody had a joke they thought was funny, they'd put it in, and you kind of get a good game out of it. And later on, he ended up making a game for somebody else that he didn't really like, and you spend all the time doing that. So
I imagine it was, for him, it would have been, Battlefront 3 was probably if he worked on that, Free Radical. I forget if he did. But
he was talking about Haze, I think. At the time.
Haze. Okay, with Ubisoft. Is it just a matter of it's so tough to have and inject personality when you're part of that bigger machine? Do you ever look at other studios and say, like, how are they able to keep that kind of light spirit and creativity when inside of such a huge corporation? Are there any good examples of that? You don't see that.
I don't know what studios you're thinking of.
Yeah.
I can't see that. There's a lot of big studios doing really well, but I'm not always sure that if there's several thousand people on the software, who owns it? Who's really in charge?
Right. Right. So what type of games?
I can only speak from my experiences of doing that. It's normally, if there's lots and lots of people involved, I think the best games are made by small teams. And that's why I'm excited to go to PAX and see some of these games that are made by one or two people. I mean, anybody making anything is an achievement, even a cast of thousands. If there's a small team and even putting anything out, you might think it's terrible. You might think it's good or bad. It's an achievement to even get there. If somebody's saying something, you're putting yourself out there. You're making a comment, you're making a statement and saying, this is what I wanted to make. Or you're collaborating with someone for the first time, and that's quite a beautiful thing. So, but going back to your question, what would it need to be a Need for Speed game?
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't even have to think about it. Could do that in a heartbeat. Could do that standing on my head.
What? You sound like Donald Trump when he was running for office. Like, oh, I'd kill ISIS within 30 minutes. You just got to get me in there. I'll let you know.
That's a real insult to me.
Sorry, it's just a weird thing to say. Are you hoping that you're hired for consulting on Need for Speed? Would that be a dream for you, or?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't think they'd ever ring me up. But if you're asking me, I watched an interview. I've been watching a lot of interviews with film directors recently because obviously I'm going to PAX. I'm having to do things like this, and it never makes me comfortable. It's not my natural habitat. A lot of people might beg to differ, but I was looking at film directors and how they answer the questions, because sometimes if you're really honest, it's spectacularly wrong. And somebody was asking Ridley Scott, and he was talking about Prometheus, or he was about to make Prometheus. I don't know if you've seen that film.
Oh, yeah.
And he was saying, it was kind of like, what would you do with Alien? And he said, well, I know in a heartbeat, And they said, well, what would you do? And he said, well, somebody has to pay me. I'm not just going to, I'd do this.
Right.
It starts off when Ripley wakes up and she's doing this, and,
Yeah.
Corporal Hicks comes out and the APC lines. So, really, I mean, I make games for a living. I take it super seriously to an obsessive level. When it comes to driving games, I know exactly what to do in a heartbeat. If you asked me to make The Crew 3, I'd know what to do. If you asked me to make Need for Speed, I'd know what to do. I'll give you a concept in 10 seconds.
So you're saying Dangerous Driving is the Prometheus to Burnout's Alien?
It's the aliens.
Ooh, okay. All right, the zig when you think it's going to zag. Hey, could you tell me a story? Could you tell the story of Nintendo coming to Criterion and wanting to make a new F-Zero game for the Wii U?
Oh, here we go. Right. Once and for all, Nintendo didn't come to Criterion and ask us to make F-Zero.
What happened then?
Nothing of the sort at all.
Never happened.
Complete false.
Really?
Somebody quite junior in Nintendo in Europe, who isn't there anymore, sent me an email and said, hey, some of us were talking, i.e. some of us. What does that mean? So that could be the water cooler. Just like some of us at Game Informer were talking about games we'd love to see come back. And we thought it'd be awesome if we thought only you lot would be great to do F-Zero. Wouldn't that be awesome? And this guy just sent me an email out of the blue. So then I take that email and I replied and said, he must have maybe thought we were an independent company, and we weren't. We were wholly owned by EA.
Right.
So one, we're owned by EA. Two, if you want to talk to EA, and those companies have all those discussions all the time, you have to contact this guy in EA, and I gave him the email address. That's it.
That's it. And now just
so
this
it's
folklore.
It's a bit like, hey, Kato said to me,
right
in there, Kato said to me in the coffee room, hey, wouldn't it be great if I did Need for Speed? That's all it is.
Okay, just very casual. And you don't know, some of them were talking. It probably wasn't Miyamoto on the phone saying, we need these guys right now.
Definitely not. Because if it was,
that
could have happened. That conversation, I mean, companies like EA and Activision and stuff, they're talking all the time.
Right.
Things like that happen, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't happen with us. So all it was somebody who was very junior, who I'd met when they showed me the Wii U.
Gotcha.
And just said, what about that? And I was like, well, you'd have to speak to these people. Now, that person was quite junior in the company. He would have never have been able to reach out to the senior person at EA. It was never a formal thing.
Right.
It's just a little pipe dream.
But you understand now, the twist is that you're an independent developer. And so if Nintendo wanted to reach out, would you ever be interested in making an F-Zero game now?
I'm not really big on F-Zero.
Yeah.
I'd be the wrong person to do it. I mean, I've just said, I could, I could give you a setup on Need for Speed, but F-Zero, it's never really been my thing. And somebody else had said, apparently I insulted somebody when I'd said making somebody else's IP is not my idea of a good time. So just a Need for Speed for 4 years. And that's what I feel now. I didn't leave a corporate company to set up my own company to build stuff that isn't ours. I set up the company with Fiona and Phil and Alex and Simon. We got together to make games like Dangerous Golf and Dangerous Driving. We're just it's like being in a band. We're just a small team of people that like to work together.
Yeah.
And we like to make this style of game, and we've made it. And now we're gonna do the multiplayer side, and that's what we're about.
What's your vision for the future? Do you want to just keep growing as a team? Do you want to stay about the same size you are and just do driving games for
No,
the
we
rest
just
of
want
the
to
time?
stay. We just got ideal is just keep things as we are.
Yeah.
We're more than happy to stay at 7 people. The tools, we're just looking at GDC that last week. Tools and tech are coming on all the time. I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff Epic showed, but their tools and hardware advances that are coming. It's just a great time. It's probably the best time ever to be making games.
Yeah. Is there ever interest from bigger companies? Microsoft is buying up everything that moves at this point. Is there any world where you'd sell the company to a big corporation?
I don't know. You'd have to ask me. I don't think half the big corporations. I don't think most people even know who we are. We are a tiny, tiny studio. We'll find out. I bet most people. Well, I have no idea what to expect at PAX at all. I don't think a lot of the big companies. I don't even think they know we exist. You know.
But like you said, there's so much talent there. I think people recognize the names. And you look at the resumes of everybody in that studio. You say, here's a little powerhouse of a studio.
Well, I used to do that job, right? I mean, before I was a developer, I worked in the international office of a company called Acclaim Entertainment, which is now no longer with us. And the job I had there, well, the eventual job I ended up with was it was a job called it was what they call in the music industry an A&R job, artist and repertoire. So basically, my job was to travel on a plane and visit all the developers I could around Europe and Australia and go and look for games. So if the internal studios were late on a project, somebody else might have something else that they could drop in. So my job was to travel around the world and meet developers, and some were good and some were not so good. If I was around now, I would probably ring us up in a heartbeat and said, knock a car game out, see you in 7 months.
Right.
How much do you want? No problem. Where's your hand? Let me bite it off. I mean, but I guess at the moment it's a much more data-driven world we live in. I guess people don't know who we are, or they don't think the genre is, Burnout's always been spectacularly unpopular, for a lot of people, particularly in the industry. A lot of people, it's always been seen as a bit of a bust, probably because it was associated with Acclaim for a long time. I've lost count of the number of times people have told me, "You'll never succeed. This will never sell." I think the exact phrase, "This will never sell in the US," is something I clearly remember. It's very motivating to hear, actually. It was press that told the world it was a fun game, and it was fans. So the first people to ever see the game, we held an open day at the studio for fans to come down, I get to talk to Game Informer because I've talked to Kato for years, and I've been to the office, and I was last freezing my backside off in Minneapolis showing Burnout 2 on the GameCube. The coldest place in the world.
Glad you enjoyed your stay, man.
True. I wondered why the sidewalks were empty. Nobody told me it was all connected at a first floor level. Thanks very much.
Yeah. We got a whole system for that. That's crazy. So even do you hear rumblings about hey, Burnout Remastered, here's how it's selling, or Burnout Paradise Remastered, I should say. Here's how it's selling. Do you see EA as testing the waters to see if there's any chance they could fund Burnout in a big, bad way again?
No.
There's just no way in your mind that's going to happen.
I would not. I still know people at EA. No, I don't know.
Okay. Would you want them to, or is it just it'd be uncomfortable if they made a new Burnout?
No, I mean, they're a big company. They're a smart company that can do whatever they want, really.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt your heart?
I mean, hey, it's no secret. We've been to see them about doing it.
Oh, really? Okay. And
whether they do it or not, I don't know. They might be doing it. They might be showing it at E3. Let's see. It was a game it's very close to my heart. It's been the past X years of my life. But this is why I've made Dangerous Driving, because I have specific ideas about what I want to do and how I want to approach it. So that's what I'm just carrying on doing what I do and what I like to do. And that's why we're a small team putting out a big game. I mean,
yeah,
it's coming out very soon, and it's if you like any of those old games that I directed, you'll have a great time with this one.
Yeah.
It's certainly faster. There's hopefully it satisfies a craving for nostalgia if people know it. I mean, I'm going to PAX. It's the same old routine. You hand people the controller, and I'll say, "Hey, did you play arcade driving games? You ever played Burnout before?" I mean, that's what I'll have to say, because if you have, then you'll know what to do. This is the brake, and this is the gas, and let's get to it. And if you know some of the game modes, so I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with what we've done, but there are great game modes coming back across the games that I've directed that I was really excited about. So Survival from 2001 and Pursuit Mode from 2002. There's 9 game modes in the game. I went through them. So we've got, standard race. So it's really interesting to go back and draw from a body of work on what's interesting.
Yeah.
So if we're doing racing, well, the best racing we ever did in some of the old games were the races with takedowns in. So that's kind of like a 2005 race. Then we've got Heatwave, which was kind of the original aim for what was boost chaining in Burnout 2. So there's no takedowns in that, and it's just about drive really fast and chain boost. And that's a Heatwave. Then we have Eliminator, Road Rage, Face Off, Grand Prix, Survival, Pursuit Mode, like I said, is back, and then Shakedown, which is kind of against the clock. But things we're doing different. I mentioned that it's not just people are saying, "Oh, you've made a kind of Burnout style game." It's kind of like, what would it have become? Yeah. Where would it be now? So what's the 2019 version? Well, first thing we thought up was make wrecks persistent in the game. So when you're playing a race, wouldn't it be fun if every time you crashed and every time you took someone down, the wreck stays on the course?
Oh, that's
that
crazy.
Changes things up, right? Because then the second and third lap are different to the first lap. So if you're a very aggressive player, the game's all about aggressive driving. If you're an aggressive player, do you take everybody down on the first lap? Because takedowns give you boost, so you can go quicker, so you can win the race. But if you're leading, as you come into the second and third lap, all those cars are still there on the road.
It's going to be a minefield. Yeah. That's a super fun idea.
It's a minefield of cars. So persistent wrecks is really cool. That's one thing that's new, and it's a lot of fun. At PAX, there's going to be a great track I'm going to show, which is on a canyon track, Dead Rock Canyon. And there's something about that race. It comes in the third tier, coupe tier. It's just a great example of persistent wrecks. People are either going to... I showed 2 press the other day, and they had a good time. They were wrecking. So it's a new type of takedown. If you take somebody down into a persistent wreck, that's called a junkyard takedown. Right, so that's new. Junkyard takedowns are new. But if you smash into a wreck that was either yours or somebody else's, that's called a nervous wreck. Because you can see them. They're kind of on fire. They're not on fire. They're kind of smoking. Yeah. So it's a very intense game. You're looking at a letterbox of the screen all the time, with your eyes kind of all dried out and don't touch me, don't touch me, shh, because it's a very in-the-zone game. One of the things we talked about a lot at the start of the development was what's the key emotion in the game, and it's the concept of being in the zone. When you played Burnout, you don't play Burnout, have a conversation with somebody. You don't play Burnout, it's not relaxing. It's very focused, right? You kind of holding the controller, your hands are sweating, it's going very, very quickly. You are putting on a superhuman display of driving, right? And you're focused on this little letterbox area of the screen. So that's in the zone. So that influenced all our modes. What are the great zone modes? And what are great zone courses? So the courses have to have a flow to them, and you have to be in the zone. So if you're not in the zone, you probably find the game really hard. Right. But if you're in the zone, you'll be able to do it. I think the first example of the zone I can ever think of was seeing the film Tron in 1982. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's great.
So the light cycles, when they send Flynn into the maze, that to me is like the first example of zone.
He's in the zone. All right, got it.
The zone. And if you were ever in an arcade, if you ever watched anybody rule in an arcade, I remember watching somebody play the arcade game Phoenix once, and I'd never seen that big spaceship on the 4th level. I'd never seen anybody blow it up. If you remember, you have to shoot up the mothership, and then if you can fire into the middle, it blows up. And I watched a guy do that, and I was like, wow, you're really good. And he looked at me and he said, now I'm going to show you really good. And then he just absolutely destroyed the game and was the best. And if you've ever seen the movie The Last Starfighter, one of the early CG films. Yeah. Very good guy called Alex, very good name, good at arcade games. He played this incredible pretend arcade game, and he was in the zone. Everybody came to watch him, right? Arcade games you could really rule. If you ever played Dragon's Lair in an arcade where it had a monitor above the screen? A crowd could form. You're in the zone. If you play Daytona USA, right?
There we go.
Got to be in the zone.
Can you compare your level of pride for dangerous driving versus Danger Zone or Dangerous Golf? Does it feel just like leaps and bounds ahead of the studio's previous work in your mind?
Yeah. Like I said, this is Aliens, right?
Yeah.
What was it? This Time It's War. I remember I did some of the packaging and advertising for Alien Trilogy on PlayStation 1, and I think the tagline was "This time it's more." Yeah, this is it's certainly the best game to me, best game I've worked on. The one that probably means the most to me. I mean,
your entire career.
Proud of it. Yeah. It's certainly the fastest. So a couple of weeks ago, we're just finishing the development. We have to play through it all to check all the achievements and trophies work.
Yeah.
So you have to play the software in a way that it'll never be played, i.e., you have to play it perfectly. You have to come to work, sit down, and play it for 15 hours nonstop.
Yeah.
And you have to get gold medals and everything. By the end of the day, I think our nerves were in pieces. Absolutely shot to pieces. It starts off fast, and it gets faster, slightly faster, then it gets very fast, very fast, very, very, very fast. And you'll think that maze bit in Tron was kind of in slow motion by the time you've finished the game.
Yeah, awesome. Do you consider yourself a perfectionist?
When it comes to games, probably, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Is it tough to be a perfectionist?
Do you?
A little bit for some things I'm really passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way in the indie space, that it's tough to be a perfectionist in indie development? Because it's like at some point we need to get this thing out the door.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that can be a good thing and a bad thing. You can't really waste a day as an independent developer because you've only got so much money.
Yeah.
It's not like, I think a 2-year project now would feel like some massive vacation. But at the same time, you can get equally bored on a 2-year project. I know I used to do. We'd have nothing on screen for a year and a half.
Right.
What was fun about this development is we started in August. We were driving all the tracks by the end of the month, really. I mean, we put the courses together really, really, really quickly. And at the start of the development, I was going back and playing a bit of Burnout 2 on PlayStation 2 and was kind of thinking, I hope we do something as good as that.
Yeah.
Because there was something about Burnout 2. There's a purity to it that maybe we lost later on.
Interesting.
But then again, that's just me saying that, right? So how I see the software is kind of different to say how you would see the software, because to me it means something totally different than it would ever be to you.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that I would have played something for a long time, and then once it comes out, it becomes somebody else's. It's something that you react to, whereas we were kind of making it and we played it all the times it was bad. You only played it when it was good, or you played it when we did this. Or that's game development, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what I think about the games is kind of different to what anybody else would think, I guess. But this one's certainly the fastest. This one's certainly the most intense. This one's got the best crashes. This one's got real physics in it.
Yeah.
None of the others did. This one. So again, it's not just it. So I'll tell you a couple more things. Persistent Rex was one cool thing. Second thing was that wanted cars to be meaningful. So as the precursor of my PAX script is that cars are tailor-made for modes. In the older games, you unlock cars, and you unlock lots of cars, but they didn't really do anything. This kind of looked different because we'd only changed the top speed and the boost speed. And the cars didn't have wheels back then, right? They were just very simple physics because the hardware couldn't do it. So this time, Ben Smith, a brilliant coder who did all the handling for this game, we were talking about making the cars faster and faster. And he came up with an idea, and there's 6 tiers of cars, right? So there's sedans, SUV, coupe, supercar, hypercar, and then there's something at the end called Formula DD, which you don't really have in America, but it's kind of like Formula 1 in England, but it's the Formula DD, it's the dangerous driving version. And those cars are really fast. What we wanted to do is make cars meaningful. So there are 6 tiers of cars, and there's 4 variants of each one. So as you play through the game, you unlock cars. So you get a base model, then there's a tuned version, an advanced version, and then there's a prototype version. So the tuned version, Ben suggested, look, why don't we make cars good in different modes? So when you unlock the tuned version of a car, that car is best for heatwave. It's tuned for heatwave mode, right?
Okay.
It earns boost quicker than anything else. It uses boost quicker than anything else. And when you're in a heatwave event, if you're chaining boost around the track, every time you do a chain, it increases the top speed by 2 miles an hour. So, and we don't know how far that can go yet, really, because we haven't done it without crashing. Because if you crash, you break the chain.
Oh, that'll be fun. The internet's just going to, have a field day with that.
So while you're chaining, obviously the top speed's going up by 2.
Yeah.
And you can chain, it uses boost much quicker. So you can chain, I think my best is, well, I was telling Ben I did a 52 chain the other day and he didn't believe me, but it was definitely over a 34 chain. And then I think I kind of lost concentration for kind of some nanosecond and then managed to stack it on the Eagle Ridge course. When you unlock the advanced version of the car, that's built for road rage. The car's stronger, it hits harder, and it takes less damage. So when you unlock that car, if you go back and play road rage, it's really good for it. And then the fastest car in the game, it's the fastest car, the prototype. It's always made of carbon fiber, but it's also the most fragile. Because when we go to online, we don't just want it to be that if you've played through the game, you get the fastest car, you're just going to rule. Well, you can have a choice of cars, what you want to, depending on the mode, what you're going to take.
Right.
You might take the prototype, and that's good, but we can kick your head in it because it's really easy to take you down in it.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
When you say get to online, is the game shipping with online, or is it something you're going to patch in later, or how are you phrasing
No,
it?
we're just about to start work on it now.
Okay.
We're going to do it the next couple of weeks. I think we'll have our first online race while I'm in PAX. So it'll be online in about 3 days.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so when the game ships on April 9th, they will have online.
So what we did is, a lot of people told us don't do online. And we thought, no, because it's, something like Road Rage is killer online. We couldn't do everything, right? So if you think about it, we're a small team of 7 doing a game simultaneously on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation.
Yeah.
You could either have had a less good single-player game with online on April the 9th, or you could have the best single-player we could ever make, to the point where we just think we can't think of anything we're kind of frustrated by that we want to change. And then you can have the online version of that, which would be really good. And we'll do a better job on online because we would have finished it. And all we have to do is take that game and put it online. Whereas when you're trying to do online at the same time, you're trying to build your handling and finish off your tracks and all your game modes, something would have had to go. So we probably wouldn't have done as many game modes, probably wouldn't have done as many cars. We certainly wouldn't have come up with the variants on the game modes. We wouldn't have changed the rules. There's a whole lot of other stuff we wouldn't do. Because we're an indie team, you can only do so much.
Totally. So it is shipping after April 9th, the online feature.
Yeah.
Okay,
we're starting it tomorrow.
That's
I
wild,
don't.
man.
I'm going to be on a plane, so I get the first day off. It's fantastic. So
I'm sure you get this. I'm sure you get this a lot. But have you considered a Switch version? Do you think there's any way it can run on that thing?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we've got a kit. It'd just be time, really. Yeah. Could it do it? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at Doom. We'd probably do it at, I don't know, 720 with all the shadows off. But in the time, it would probably take us, I don't know, a year to do. I mean, in the time it'd take us to do it, we could probably make another one.
Yeah, interesting. Well, hey, April 9th, Dangerous Driving, huh? Very exciting.
Well, there's something else. There's something else that's really cool that I haven't told you as well.
Yeah.
And that's it's the first game that has a native Spotify control built into it.
Native Spotify control.
So when I think about driving, there's certain playlists, there's certain music I like to drive to.
Yeah.
So what Fiona and Alex Veal did is that they got in touch with Spotify and said, and we've been interested in doing something with Spotify for a long time. We think there's a lot more you could do with Spotify and gaming. So they said, okay, show us what you can do. So breaking new ground with it, rather than write some music which we liked or license some music like most games would do to fit in the game, wouldn't it be better if when you drive, you can choose whatever music you want to drive to? So for me, testing through the game, I've been racing to the best of AC/DC on Spotify.
All right, way to go, yeah.
If you play the first hour of the game, do you know that story about Wizard of Oz and Dark Side of the Moon?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this. So for dangerous driving, I would say if you want to play the first hour of the game, when you boot the game, if you have a Spotify premium account, you can go through a little authorization process on your Xbox, PlayStation, on PC, or you can use your phone as the controller. This is AC/DC on Spotify. I think it opens up with Highway to Hell, Back in Black. I think it's Back in Black first, then Highway to Hell, and then Thunderstruck.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good opening 20 minutes. I think by the time you get to the end of Thunderstruck, you get the first Shakedown preview event.
That's
which
good.
is Supercar from the 3rd tier.
Jesus Christ, this is a very strategic.
Pretty good.
All right, there's a lot of strategies out there. Hey, Alex Ward, thank you for your time, Meg. Best of luck with the game's launch.
No problem. Thank you very much for speaking to me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody. Okay, for real though, Clementine. From your conversation earlier, it seems like Clementine super doesn't die. She lives.
You are correct.
Yeah.
She's alive. Is AJ alive?
Yes.
Okay.
How many people die in that final episode?
Let's see.
Of The Walking Dead?
Quite a few, but
Okay.
not anybody that I really, really cared about. So.
Right. Does she get close to dying? Is the
Yes,
thing we're like,
that-
oh, there's an axe falling near her face.
Here is what bothers me about it and where I feel like the major plot hole is. All right, remember in season 1 when Lee got bit, right?
Yeah.
You had the option to try to cut his arm off because, there's that whole myth if you cut off.
Sure.
Well, it doesn't freaking do anything, right? He dies anyways.
Uh-huh.
So in this season, in the very beginning, I pushed like this villain into a zombie horde. And he comes back and his arm is part of his arm's missing because they bit him, but he could cut it off and
Okay.
it worked. So I was like, wait a second. Now does amputating work where it didn't before?
Or maybe it's like inconsistent. I kind of like that idea where sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
This is weird. So
Yeah.
then at the end, Clementine gets bit as she's going. Like it's how Lee did too. It's just such a fast moment, which is really good because like you're like, oh, everything's going fine, and then just whoosh, real quick, and you're just like, shit, she's bit. And
Where?
on her leg, so like really bad. She already had a cut that was open, and they bit in there, so it's like it's bad.
They bit inside of her cut.
So anyways, she's trying to help AJ get away and kind of doing her last Good Samaritan deed before and you can see like the color is fading from her, like she is dying.
I'm being bleed.
And you get to pick as AJ, to tell AJ like, kill me or leave me here, kind of like you did with Lee, where Lee was like, you had the option to shoot him or not. And I told him, shoot me. I don't want to be a zombie. Like, I don't want to see Clementine walking around as
But
a
she doesn't
zombie.
like chain herself to the radiator or anything crazy like that, does she?
She's not chained, but she can't walk because she hurt her
Okay.
leg. So
Got it,
she's
got
just
it.
sitting there kind of shooting zombies away from AJ as he throws this. And she goes, so you're going to do what I told you, right? And he lifts up the axe and then it cuts ahead. So they're back and it just shows AJ and he's back like fishing, and they had met this school and made kind of their first like real home there with a bunch of other kids. So he's with those characters. You see Clementine's hat go by because it had fallen off when she was in that whole like mess of things,
And it like flies by the
the
window?
river, and he picks it up,
Oh.
So it's like, and they're just like, oh, you found her hat, like, so it's all assumed that she's dead.
Yeah.
And so then he goes back to the camp, and you hear her. All of a sudden, you hear her voice and say, "Hi, goofball!" And and it turns around, and the camera pans on her, and her leg's missing.
Mm-hmm.
So when he lifted that axe up, he cut off her leg. But the whole time during the entire scene, they don't even say, well, this guy's arm got cut off, so maybe this will work. Like, it's not even a thought of whether or not it will work or not. So they wanted you to think that she was dead, but they gave her a happy ending. And I feel like to give her a happy ending, they broke some of their own rules within that world. And so when you it just doesn't make sense.
So could you kill her? Was there a choice to? I mean, either choice that you make, she's living probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
that
either
sucks.
he's not going to kill her.
Yeah.
Well, like when they know for sure they're not continuing it on, it seems like now's the time
Well,
to let people kill her or
when
not.
she did get back, I'm like, oh, great, they're really doing it. I've said from the beginning, I think it would be very bold to just kill
Yeah.
her. And that was going on. I was like, well, I don't know if I really want her to die now as it was all happening. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm kind of like, I'm okay that she's alive. Like, I'm not mad that she's alive. I just wish it made sense in a way that, like, would have worked a little bit better.
Yeah.
Is it open for a sequel?
God, I hope so. Okay, Kim, thank you so much for telling us everything.
Yes, thank you.
All right, bye, everybody.
Bye.